Chapter 3782. A bright moon illuminated the entire divine capital. Under the moonlight, the clear rain courtyard of verdant Cloud building was like a dream. In the brightly lit room, the sound of the zither could be heard. The interior of the room was decorated elegantly and pleasantly. The thick moon-white carpet was spotless, and the white gauze curtains fluttered indistinctly. Chu-Li and Mo Qingyu each sat in front of a low table. The thick cattail hassock was placed on a thick carpet, which was soft and comfortable to sit on. Mo Qingyu was dressed in a plain white robe. Her beautiful hair was tied up high like a black cloud. Her slender and fair fingers were playing the zither slowly. She lowered her head to play the zither, revealing her snow-white neck that was as slender as ivory. Chu-Li squinted his eyes and took a sip of wine from the white jade cup from time to time. He looked relaxed. When the music stopped, Chu-Li opened his eyes and clapped his hands in admiration. "Junior brother, it's rare that you're still in the mood." Mo Qingyu stood up with the strings of her guzheng and sat down in front of Chu-Li. A faint fragrance wafted into his nose. Her jade-like hand picked up the jade pot and poured another cup for Chu-Li. Chu-Li smiled. "It's just a trip to the Imperial Mausoleum." The Imperial Mausoleum. Mo Qingyu shook her head gently. She put down the jade pot and sat in front of Chu-Li. The two of them were so close that their breaths smelled like orchids. Chu-Li said, "Since senior sister knows, then master should know as well, right? Master's junior shun wants you to return to the mountain." Mo Qingyu sighed faintly. The Imperial Mausoleum is a forbidden place in the martial arts world. Senior sister, do you know the secret of the Imperial Mausoleum? Is there really the secret of the enlightened master? Chu-Li asked. Mo Qingyu stood up gracefully and sat down gracefully in front of her low table. The Imperial Mausoleum does have the secret of the enlightened master, but no one knows what the secret is. No one really came out. Every single emperor of the past had to enter and eventually emerge as a heavenly deity. Could it be a trap where people die the moment they enter? If no one comes out of the inner mausoleum, they can't leave the Imperial Mausoleum. However, they can move freely within the Imperial Mausoleum. The inner mausoleum and the outer mausoleum are connected, separated only by a large door. However, once they enter the inner mausoleum, they can never leave the Imperial Mausoleum for the rest of their lives. This is a solemn vow. I see. Chu-Li was enlightened. Mo Qingyu sighed. The Imperial Mausoleum is actually a huge formation. Chu-Li raised his eyebrows. This formation is extremely powerful. It's not that no one has ever set their eyes on the Imperial Mausoleum, but no one has ever come out after entering. Mo Qingyu shook her head and said, "I don't know how many masters there are in the Imperial Mausoleum. I'm afraid only the Emperor knows, especially the inner mausoleum." Chu-Li nodded. "That's why it's impossible for you to break out of the mausoleum." Mo Qingyu said, "Why don't you disappear halfway and return to Amethyst Mountain directly? Even the Emperor can't do anything to you then. This won't bring trouble to the Amethyst Mountain, right?" Chu-Li asked. Mo Qingyu's exquisite face revealed a proud expression. "Although our Amethyst Mountain does not have an enlightened master, we have the ability to deal with an enlightened master. The Emperor would not dare to attack our Amethyst Mountain." Chu-Li nodded. This was where the confidence of the four major sects lay, as well as the foundation. Chu-Li shook his head again. "Senior sister, I appreciate your kindness, but I will not return to Amethyst Mountain." Mo Qingyu looked at him in surprise. Chu-Li said, "Once I leave halfway, I can only hide in Amethyst Mountain. It's no different from entering the Imperial Mausoleum. You can just change your identity and appearance." Mo Qingyu frowned and said, "But once you enter the Imperial Mausoleum, you'll never be able to show your face." "I have my own arrangements," Chu-Li said. Mo Qingyu asked, "You really won't return to Amethyst Mountain?" Chu-Li shook his head. Mo Qingyu sighed and said, "All right, you have your own ideas. I won't be able to persuade you otherwise. I'll tell Master's junior shun." Chu-Li smiled. "How's senior sister Mo doing recently?" "I'm living very comfortably." Mo Qingyu smiled. "It's all thanks to you." Chu-Li said, "If you don't like it, leave early. After I leave Fairy's capital, I might implicate you. I'll act according to circumstances. Yu smiled. Chuli finally settled the matters in Fairy's capital. He directly announced to the public that he would not meet anyone and appeared in Gale City. Gale City had regained its peace. No one seemed to notice the changes in the Roaring Tiger clan, but the undercurrents were surging. Everyone was waiting for Zheng Yanwu's arrival. They all knew that Zheng Yanwu would never let Zhao De go. Zhao De's fate was already clear. 100-year-old master versus a rising star. No matter how powerful the rising star was, it was useless. Everyone knew that Zhao De did not have many days left to live. Once he met Zheng Yanwu, he would definitely die. In the morning, Chuli was lying on a deck chair in the backyard of the residence, basking in the bright sunshine. He was sleepy and comfortable. Lu Shu's short and plump body was lying on the deck chair next to him. Ko Qiong and Feng Wuji were handling the mundane affairs of the Radiance clan. Their injuries were mostly healed. They could not fight, but they could handle the affairs of the clan. Huya and the others are fickle. They don't think highly of us and young master. Lu Shu laid on the chair and yawned lazily. Once young master is defeated, they'll definitely run back to the Roaring Tiger clan. The Roaring Tiger clan won't accept them anymore. Chuli said, I don't think so. They're the essence of the Roaring Tiger clan. Lu Shu scoffed. The White Tiger sect will pinch their noses and accept it. At most, they'll chase you away. Without a leader, they'll be easier to control. Chuli nodded. We'll talk about it after we kill Zheng Yanwu. If young master can kill Zheng Yanwu, they'll definitely be obedient. Lu Shu smiled. But everyone doesn't think you'll win, young master. We'll have to try. Chuli said lazily. I'm just afraid that the other two sects will take the opportunity to cause trouble, Lu Shu said. If they mess up young master's mind, Zheng Yanwu will have a higher chance of winning. Based on the Flaming Sun sect character, it's highly possible. Get ready, Chuli said. Get ready for what? A gentle voice was heard. Two beautiful women in green robes and white veils landed in front of them. Their watery eyes fell on him without blinking. Chuli stood up from the deck chair and gave them a fist salute. Senior Sister Li, Senior Sister Lu. Li Rulin scoffed. Zhao De, you're getting better at stirring up trouble. You're still stirring up trouble at a time like this. Lu Jin asked, Junior brother Zhao, did you really kill Zheng Tianhe? Chuli nodded. Yes, I did. He's quite bold. Doesn't he know that his father is a hidden master? Lu Jin said, We heard that Zheng Yanwu has left the mountain and will arrive at Gale City soon. What are you going to do? We'll deal with whatever comes our way. What else can we do? Let's avoid him, Li Rulin said. Chuli scoffed. If I avoid him, what will happen to Gale Branch? You can't even protect yourself. Why would you care about Gale Branch? Li Rulin scoffed. If you're here, you and Gale Branch won't be able to protect yourselves. If you're not here, you might not attack Gale Branch. After all, you're the one who killed his son. I won't avoid him, Chuli said. I won't back down. When will you change that bad temper of yours? Li Rulin said impatiently. Look at the situation now. If you don't retreat, you'll die. I won't retreat, even if I die. Chuli scoffed. Li Rulin was furious. Lu Zheng quickly said, All right, since you won't retreat, we'll lend you a hand. The three of us should be able to fight him. Thank you, Senior Sister Lu. Chuli gave a fist salute. Lu Shu quietly retreated. If you've recovered your martial arts, you might stand a chance. However, you haven't. Li Rulin looked at him and shook her head. Hurry up and cultivate. Chuli nodded. Chapter 3783. It was early in the morning, and the entire Gale City was still quiet. Outside the Radiance clan, there was a young disciple standing beside each of the two stone lions. Both of them had perfected innate mastery. Their hands were on the hilts of their swords, and their eyes were shining so brightly that no one dared to look at them directly. The two of them stood on both sides of the door with an eerie aura like two door gods. The bright sunlight shone on them, but it could not dispel the eerie chill on their bodies. Although their faces were tense, their hearts were relaxed. The air was exceptionally fresh, and the sound of burning firewood made them want to run home and have a full meal. They were hungry after standing for an entire night. Even though they were hungry, they were still full of energy and vigor. The two of them heard the faint sound of footsteps, and their spirits rose. They saw a short and thin middle-aged man walking over from the street. He looked ordinary, and his eyes were lifeless. The sharpness in their eyes disappeared and was replaced by a smile. They looked at the approaching middle-aged man. "What's the matter, Your Excellency? I've heard that Gale Branch's branch leader, Zhao De, is highly skilled in martial arts. I've come to meet you and learn from you." The middle-aged man gave a fist salute slowly. "You?" The two of them were stunned. "You want to challenge the branch leader?" "Yes." The middle-aged man nodded slowly. The two of them looked at the middle-aged man carefully so that they would not be fooled. There were many masters who hid their strength, and it would not end well if they were to be careless. The man was thin, and his dark green robe was a little big, making him look even skinnier. It seemed like a gust of wind could blow him away. No matter how they looked at him, the middle-aged man did not look like a martial arts master. He did not have any inner energy, and his spirit was weak. He was just an ordinary person. "Stop joking, Your Excellency." One of the young protectors shook his head. "Our branch leader is busy and doesn't have time to entertain random people. You should challenge him elsewhere. The Roaring Tiger clan is not bad, and they're very powerful. You can try. I'm Zheng Yanwu." The middle-aged man gave a fist salute. Zheng Yanwu? The two of them were stunned. They were familiar with the name. Zhang Tian's father was said to be a hidden master of the White Tiger sect who was over 100 years old. "Hee, Your Excellency, you really know how to joke." A young guard smiled and said, "Senior Zhang is a top expert who is over 100 years old. How would he look like this? Could it be that you have changed your appearance?" "I am Zheng Yanwu, the real deal." The middle-aged man said slowly, "Can't I enter your branch?" After saying that, he walked forward. The two young guards hurriedly took a step forward and stood shoulder to shoulder in front of him, blocking the path in front of him. They said in a deep voice, "Stop. Don't blame us for being impolite if you continue forward." Regardless of whether he knew martial arts or not, they couldn't let him in before he revealed his identity. Zheng Yanwu shook his head and waved his right sleeve. Bang, bang. It was as if the two young guards had been hit by a carriage at high speed. They flew out and crashed into the stone lions behind them. They grimaced in pain, and their faces were twisted. "You really are Zheng Yanwu?" The two of them cried out in surprise. They landed on the ground, took something out of their bosoms, and threw it into the air. Bang! A black shadow soared into the sky and exploded into a mass of black clouds that lingered without dissipating. With light footsteps, a group of people came out of the main door and surrounded Zheng Yanwu in the blink of an eye. Zheng Yanwu squinted his eyes and glanced at them. He shook his head. There are so many people in Gale Branch. He saw more than 30 people surrounding him tightly. Each of them was a master with a high cultivation level. Their strength was far beyond what he knew. "Who are you?" Huya shouted. "Zheng Yanwu. Are you really Senior Zheng Yanwu?" Huya was in disbelief. They had never seen Zheng Yanwu before, but they felt that a person over 100 years old would at least have white hair and a youthful complexion. How could he look like a middle-aged man? Moreover, his appearance did not look similar to Zhang Tianhe. More importantly, he did not have the appearance of a grandmaster. He looked like an ordinary person. It was as if a passerby had said that he was a hidden master for hundreds of years. It was ridiculous. Zheng Yanwu said lightly, "Every debt has its debtor. I'm looking for your branch leader, Zhao De." "Senior Zheng, you came at a bad time." Huya fist saluted. "Branch leader just left last night. I heard that he's cultivating a secret skill to deal with Senior Zheng. He'll only be back tonight. If Senior Zheng wants to meet branch leader, please wait. Don't tell me he ran away." Zheng Yanwu frowned at him. Huya shook his head. "Senior Zheng, don't worry. Branch leader dares to take responsibility for his actions. He won't run away. Senior Zheng, why don't you wait for a day? You'll see branch leader tonight. Even if branch leader doesn't show up, we're still here. What's the point of killing you?" Zheng Yanwu said lightly. In his eyes, they were not even worth mentioning. They were not worth killing. Moreover, he was afraid of Great Light Peak. No matter how powerful he was, he had no chance of winning against Great Light Peak's revenge. He only wanted to kill Zhao De to avenge his son's death. His personal grudge had nothing to do with the conflict between the sections. Great Light Peak had nothing to say. "Then I'll send you off, Senior Zheng." Huya Fist saluted. Zheng Yinwu said lightly, "I'll come back tonight. Tell Zhao De to wash his neck and not run away." "Yes," Huya said. Zheng Yinwu laughed coldly. He turned around and appeared at the corner of the street in the next moment. Then, he disappeared again. Everyone looked at his incredibly fast body movement technique with grave expressions and different thoughts running through their minds. He was in a small residence not far from the Roaring Tiger clan. He was quietly practicing the 36 energy-nurturing forms. After a few rounds, he sat down to regulate his breathing. Then he stood up to practice the 36 energy-nurturing forms again and again. The situation in Gale Branch was clearly reflected in his mind. He ignored it and focused on practicing his 36 energy-nurturing forms. Zheng Yinwu left Gale Branch and returned to the Roaring Tiger clan. The Roaring Tiger clan had lost its backbone. The two masters who had stayed behind had pacified the crowd and managed to keep the clan together. However, their spirit had dissipated. Their bones and tendons had been removed by Chu Li. They were no longer the #1 clan in Gale City. The two escorted Zheng Yinwu into the Roaring Tiger clan and reported to Zheng Yinwu alone. Zheng Yinwu looked calm and slow. He did not seem angry at all. After listening to the two's detailed report, he did not comment. In the end, he only asked indifferently if Zheng Tianhe was killed by Zhao De. As for the rest, he did not ask much. He did not ask why the fight had broken out or why he had killed Zheng Tianhe. He closed his eyes and sent the two away. Then, he walked around the courtyard where Zheng Tianhe used to live. His expression became gloomier. Zheng Tianhe's voice and smile, when he was young, flashed in his mind. He had a son at such an old age and was doted on like a grandson. He had received endless joy. Whenever he thought about being separated forever, his heart ached. Therefore, regardless of the rule of not stepping into the martial arts world before 100 years old, he had to kill Zhao De before he could face Zheng Tianhe again. After a while, he calmed himself down and began to cultivate. He was confident that he could kill Zhao De, but he did not want to fail miserably. He had to do his best no matter what. Zhao De was a rising star in the Holy Church of Light. The Holy Church of Light cherished the disciples who entered the Great Light Peak and would not allow any of them to be hurt. Therefore, they would definitely send help. His heart sank when he thought about this. Fortunately, the Holy Church of Light would not send a 100-year-old master. He had a high chance of killing Zhao De. Even if there was someone protecting him, he must kill Zhao De. Whoever tried to stop him would be the murderer of his son. He would not be able to live under the same sky as him, and he must kill them. Chu Li sat on the bed and calmed himself down. He slowly dispersed his murderous intent and calmed himself down. He rested and built up his energy for the big battle at night. Chapter 3784. At first, he was eager to learn Zheng Tianhe's White Tiger Powers level was too low. Zheng Yinwu was a 100-year-old hidden master, so his White Tiger Powers level must be very high. If he could learn it, it would be enough for him to cultivate temporarily. In the future, he would look for an opportunity to obtain all the heart techniques of White Tiger Power. If he was lucky, Zheng Yinwu's White Tiger Power could be cultivated to the highest level, which would save him a lot of effort. He did not accept the challenge immediately because he wanted to watch Zheng Yinwu cultivate White Tiger Power. Otherwise, he would not have the chance to learn it if they fought. However, when Zheng Yinwu arrived at the Roaring Tiger clan, he did not cultivate the White Tiger Power for a long time. Instead, he merely adjusted his breathing and recuperated so that he could deal with the big battle at night. Chu Li was very disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he could not force Zheng Yinwu to cultivate the White Tiger Power. He could only wait helplessly. Time passed slowly. Chu Li had been honing his single slice of the universe the entire morning. He kept compressing and honing it so that all the blade energy of the single slice of the universe in his dantian was condensed into one blade. This was very exhausting. In the past, he could release more than 20 blades when he filled his dantian with the blade energy of the single slice of the universe. Now, he had to compress all 20 blades into one, which required 10 times more energy than before. This blade would cause great damage to his meridians. Once he released it, he would not have the energy to release a second blade. With his current cultivation level, there was only one way to defeat Zheng Yanwu without restoring his Chu Li's body. There is only one chance for him to use one blade. From noon to afternoon, Zheng Yanwu sat motionlessly on the bed like a statue. Even when the people from the Roaring Tiger clan brought him food, he did not touch it and only sat on the bed to meditate. Chu Li nodded to himself at his calm temperament. It was too difficult for a martial artist not to cultivate inner energy and just sit still to calm his mind and spirit. Most martial artists liked to move and hated to stay still. When one was full of vigor, one's spirit would be overflowing and they would always want to move. Chu Li was able to do this because of his profound meditation skills. In the middle of the afternoon, when he saw that Zheng Yanwu still had no intention of cultivating white tiger power, he knew he could not count on him. He glided to a residence where Li Ruolin and Lu Zhan were chatting in the courtyard. Zheng Yanwu has arrived? Li Ruolin asked. Chu Li nodded and sat in the gazebo. Senior Sister Li, Senior Sister Lu, you should go. Li Ruolin frowned as she looked at him. Lu Zhan asked, you don't need our help? Chu Li shook his head. You won't be of much help. Instead, you'll be a burden to me. Junior brother Zhao, what nonsense are you spouting? Li Ruolin said snappily. You're not confident that you can defeat Zheng Yanwu either. Are you trying to send us away? Chu Li said, he has 100 years' worth of inner power. Think about it. Even a mediocre cultivator with 100 years' worth of inner power would be astounding. Moreover, Zheng Yanwu is a genius. You're just courting death by being in front of him. Even if we can't defeat him, we still have to try. It's good to distract him a little, Li Ruolin said. Junior brother Zhao, it'll make it easier for you to use your light blade. The only way to kill Zheng Yanwu was to use the light blade. Chu Li shook his head. The martial arts of the White Tiger sect aren't afraid of being besieged. It doesn't matter if you're here or not. All right. Li Ruolin nodded slowly. Are you confident that we won't help you? Yes. Chu Li nodded. Li Ruolin pursed her red lips. Lu Zhan asked, what method are you going to use? It's a sneak attack, Chu Li said. One hit kill. Lu Zhan shook her head and smiled. Li Ruolin said snappily, don't you know that grandmasters aren't afraid of sneak attacks? They can sense danger and still sneak an attack. Chu Li said, I'll give it a try. He frowned at the two women and said helplessly, you're really no match for him. You're courting death if you fight him. He could see the two women's thoughts. They had no intention of leaving and were determined to lend him a hand. If he did not agree, they would fight Zheng Yanwu first to wear him down so that he would have less energy to attack. So be it, Li Ruolin said calmly. We owe you our lives anyway. It's a good time to return the favor. Chu Li looked at her and then at Lu Zhan. Lu Zhan said, Junior brother Zhao, you don't have to persuade us anymore. We won't leave. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. You two are really stupid. You're courting death. He must be very fast. You won't be able to keep up with him. You'll be hit by his palm before you can even react. Isn't this courting death? You're exaggerating, Li Ruolin said. Let's use our secret skills. Junior brother Zhao, instead of thinking about how to chase us away, why don't you think about how to cooperate and fight or kill Zheng Yanwu? Lu Zhan frowned and looked at Chu Li. She looked obedient, but she was hot-tempered. She was clearly impatient. Chu Li said helplessly, all right, you guys attack first. I'll hide to the side and avoid him. Otherwise, he'll kill the three of us with one white tiger killing skill. I can distract him if I'm not in front of him. That's a good idea. Lu Zhan nodded. We'll take the lead. You watch the situation and leave if it doesn't look good. He wants to kill you anyway, not us. Chu Li shook his head. Don't think that way. He'll kill you. He knew what Zheng Yanwu was thinking. He would kill anyone who stood in his way. He had gone crazy to avenge his son. He sighed. It's decided then. You guys attack. I'll hide in the dark and look for an opportunity to kill him. Okay. The two women agreed. The setting sun shone, and the Radiance clan seemed to be covered in a layer of blood. Chu Li and the two women arrived at the Radiance clan and gathered all the Radiance clan disciples. Huya and more than 30 martial arts masters appeared in front of the main hall. They looked at Chu Li, Li Ruolin, and Lu Zhen, who were standing on the steps. Chu Li glanced at the crowd and said, "I've gathered everyone here today to introduce my two senior sisters, Li Ruolin and Lu Zhen." He pointed at the two women. "Zheng Yanwu is here. He'll come looking for me soon. As disciples of Gale Branch, are you going to look for trouble with me, the branch leader?" Everyone looked at him in confusion. Chu Li said, "The next time Zheng Yanwu comes, we'll attack him together and get rid of him. No matter how powerful a martial arts master is, he's not allowed to come to Gale Branch and cause trouble." "Yes." Huya and the others responded listlessly. Chu Li said, "Don't be afraid of Zheng Yanwu. Don't worry and fight. Even if you're killed by him, I can save you." He took out 2 jade bottles and tossed them to Huya. "These are light pills. Even if you die, you can be saved as long as you don't die for more than 2 hours." Everyone immediately became spirited and looked at Huya. Huya opened one of the jade bottles and poured out a snow-white pill. Under the setting sun, it seemed to be dyed red by the setting sun. It was crystal clear and warm. Chu Li said, "Huya, you know your stuff, right? It's the light pill." Huya nodded. He looked at Chu Li in shock. "Branch leader, are you really giving it to us?" "Of course," Chu Li said proudly. "As a branch leader, I don't have much, but I have spirit pills. As long as everyone works hard, I guarantee that I won't mistreat you. If you manage to kill Zheng Yanwu this time, I'll give each of you 2 light pills." "Thank you, branch leader," everyone responded. The light pill was a famous spirit pill in the martial arts world. One pill could save one's life. They did not expect the branch leader to be so generous. Chu Li said in a low voice, "Anyone who deserts before the battle will be killed without mercy." "Yes," everyone answered loudly. "Zhao De." A shout came from outside. Zheng Yanwu was already outside. Chapter 3785. Huya hurriedly said, "Everyone's spirit pills." Chu Li said, "Everyone, swallow this so that you won't need to use it later. Don't be reluctant. Give me another 2 pills later." When Huya heard this, he immediately poured out the radiant pellets from the jade bottle and stuffed them into their mouths. He did not let them take it and only asked them to open their mouths. Everyone could only open their mouths. Originally, there were some people who pretended to swallow it, but actually hid it in their teeth. If they could use it later, they would swallow it immediately. If they couldn't use it, they would spit it out. In any case, it was for themselves to eat, and they wouldn't find it dirty. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking did not come to fruition. As soon as the radiant pill entered their mouths, it was stained with their saliva and immediately turned into a stream of clear energy that seeped into their internal organs. Their internal organs were surrounded by this clear energy, which was indescribably comfortable. Their spirits were immediately roused, and their eyes shone brightly. They wished they could go up and fight with their lives on the line. With this, he really wasn't afraid of death. In any case, there were spirit pills to protect his life. Moreover, if he performed well, the branch leader would definitely reward him handsomely. Chu Li smiled at the 2 women as he watched the crowd walk out valiantly. Men die in pursuit of wealth, and birds die in pursuit of food. If there is a great reward, there will always be brave men. This is human nature, and even grandmasters are not immune. Zheng Yanwu stood on the empty ground outside Gale Branch and looked coldly at the people who had come out. "Where's Zhao De?" "The branch master is not here." Huya cupped his fists and said, "Senior Zheng, the branch master is busy and is not here. Why don't Senior Zheng wait a little longer?" "Humph, he's inside." Zheng Yanwu snorted. "The branch master really isn't here. However, if you want to make a move against the branch master, you'll have to get past US first." "Senior Zheng, sorry for the offense." Huya cupped his fists and said solemnly. He sighed inwardly. The branch leader was indeed the branch leader. His methods were powerful. With such a great reward, he could not afford to be hesitant. Everyone had been captured by the light pill and had completely submitted to Zhao De. He could only go with the flow. It was impossible for him to return to the Roaring Tiger clan. Of all the experts in Roaring Tiger Hall, he was the only one who had seen the light pill. The others did not have the chance to obtain it at all. Now that everyone had eaten one, there would be 2 more after that, which was equivalent to having 2 more lives, which Grandmaster could refuse. Grandmasters were even more afraid of death. For the sake of the illumination elixir, everyone would do their best to protect Zhao Dai. Moreover, he had already consumed the illumination elixir and was not afraid of death. That's right, they've passed our test. Everyone shouted in unison. They surrounded Zheng Yanwu. Zheng Yanwu glanced at them coldly and said disdainfully, "With just you guys? We have enough." Huya shouted, "Everyone, don't be polite. Let's attack together. Go." The crowd shouted. Immediately, a group of people attacked at the same time. Most of them were originally experts of the Roaring Tiger clan, and they had great teamwork. They exchanged blows and formed an airtight attack. Zheng Yanwu sneered and suddenly clasped his hands together. A vivid and lifelike tiger condensed. It was as solid as a real tiger, but it was only the size of a fist. It was as if the tiger had shrunk several times. Woo! The small tiger let out a deafening roar and then dove into the crowd. Screams rang out one after another. No one could escape from the tiger's jaws, and they were all sent flying. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 people were sent flying out of the encirclement. Zheng Yanwu sneered and clasped his hands together. Another ferocious tiger shadow leaped into the crowd like a tiger in a flock of sheep. The experts of Gale Branch could not withstand a single blow from him. More than a dozen of them were sent flying. In the blink of an eye, there was no one left standing beside him. Even Huya, who was the strongest in martial arts, was sent flying. He had held back a bit of his strength to avoid being killed, but he was also shocked by Zheng Yanwu's strength. Even if he used his full strength, he would still be sent flying when he faced the tiger's shadow head-on. In fact, he was even more seriously injured. He was injured by the attack, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. "Zheng Yanwu, how dare you?" Li Rulin fluttered out and said coldly, "This is Gale Branch, not Radiance Clan. You've reached the end of your life." Although the Holy Church of Light wanted to pursue the matter when the Radiance Clan was destroyed, they could not do so in the end. However, it was different for Gale Branch. It was a true subordinate of the Holy Church of Light, and attacking Gale Branch was equivalent to attacking the Holy Church of Light. So what if it's Gale Branch? Zheng Yanwu sneered. "I don't care if it's Radiance Clan or Gale Branch. I only want to kill Zhao Dai. You'll have to kill me first if you want to kill Junior Brother Zhao." Li Rulin scoffed. Lu Zhen did not bother to talk to him. She immediately stepped forward and threw a punch. It was the Divine Light Fist. She was so delicate and delicate. Her figure was so thin that it seemed like a gust of wind could blow her away. However, her punch was full of power. Zheng Yanwu put his hands together and condensed a tiger silhouette again. Then it shot toward Lu Zhen. The tiger silhouette met Lu Zhen's punch and shot toward her chest. It was so fast that Lu Zhen could not react in time. She could only watch helplessly as she was sent flying. Bang! Lu Zhen was sent flying. While she was in midair, her strong unwillingness to accept defeat forced her to throw another punch. Then, she spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed into the stone lion. After she landed on the ground, she became listless like a withered flower. Li Rulin's expression changed. Seeing your sister Lu Zhen fell under the stone lion and yelled, "Be careful. Use your secret skill." Li Rulin did not hesitate to activate the Divine Light secret skill. She shouted and threw a punch at Zheng Yanwu. Zheng Yanwu shook his head and sighed. "You're just courting death. I'll fulfill your wish." Zheng Yanwu sneered. He put his hands together, and another tiger silhouette shot toward Li Rulin. Li Rulin dodged the tiger silhouette. However, the tiger silhouette suddenly split into two. This time, it was too late for Li Rulin to dodge. She could only watch helplessly as she was sent flying. She helplessly looked in the direction of the gate. She did not expect herself to be so useless. Junior Brother was right. They were so weak in front of Zheng Yanwu. They were just courting death. However, If she and senior sister Lu were like this with their cultivation levels, Zhao De would be even worse. She was slightly worried when she thought about this. If Zheng Yinwu barged in, Zhao De's life would be in danger. Her only hope was to be quick-witted and escape in advance to avoid being caught by Zheng Yinwu. Bang! Li Ruolin's graceful body crashed into the stone lion and slid to Lu Zhen's side. It seems like we're really a burden. Lu Zhen lowered her head and sighed. The two of them were like children facing adults in front of Zheng Yinwu. They could not fight back at all, which made her feel extremely hopeless and depressed. Li Ruolin said, "This is the best we can do. It's all up to junior brother Zhao now." Zhao De. Zheng Yinwu suddenly extended his hand. Lu Zhen, who was sitting on a stone lion, flew up and shot toward Zheng Yinwu. Zheng Yinwu flipped his palm and hit Lu Zhen's chest. Lu Zhen was sent flying again. She spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. She slid down after crashing into the stone lion and became even more dispirited. Her injuries had already barely healed. Now that she was injured again and her vitality was greatly damaged, it was extremely bad. Zheng Yinwu shouted, "Zhao De, if you don't come out, I'll kill these two women." The surroundings were silent. Chuli did not make a move. Huya and the others had consumed the light pill in advance. Even though they were heavily injured, they were not as severely injured. They were still very energetic. Huya frowned as he looked at the gate. Did branch leader Zhao De really escape? "I'll count to 3. If he doesn't come out, I'll kill her," Zheng Yinwu shouted. Chuli still did not make a move. He was standing outside the basilica that was separated by a wall and observing Zheng Yinwu's movements. He was using the nature restoration manifestation and the omniscient mirror at the same time to look for Zheng Yinwu's flaws that could allow him to kill Zheng Yinwu in one hit. Before he was confident that he could kill Zheng Yinwu in one hit, he could only hold back. Otherwise, he would be courting death if he went out. He only had one chance and one slash. If he could not kill Zheng Yinwu, he could only run for his life. 1, 2. Chapter 3786. Let her go. Huya roared and charged at Zheng Yinwu with all his remaining strength. The other master also charged at him with all his might. They would never allow these two beauties to die in front of them. Otherwise, they would not be fit to be called men. Zheng Yinwu sneered and pushed his palms forward. His palm energy hit the two men from afar. Bam, bam. The two men were sent flying hundreds of feet away. It was as if they were being pulled by strings. Not only did the two men's fate not scare the crowd away, but it also aroused their courage. They charged at Zheng Yinwu with their wounded bodies, fearless and courageous. The two women looked at the crowd in surprise. They did not expect this motley crew of roaring Tiger Clan's masters to be so brave. The double stimulation of the light pill reward and the beautiful women made their blood boil. They were fearless and showed their courage. All men's actions were for the sake of women. With such beautiful women in front of them, they became hot-blooded young men. Zheng Yinwu's palms were not enough, so he used the same trick again. He put his palms together and formed a fierce tiger shadow. It pounced at the crowd like a miniature tiger. Bam, 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 bam. The crowd was scattered everywhere. Some went east, some went west, some went south, and some went north. They flew in all directions and formed a semicircle. Zheng Yinwu sneered and looked at the crowd. Then he extended his palms toward the two women again. Li Ruolin and Lu Zhen pursed their red lips and stared at him stubbornly. They wanted to move, but were powerless. They could only watch as his palms fell on them. Huya charged at him again. "You're courting death." Zheng Yinwu's face darkened. He turned around and attacked with his palm energy, like a huge wave. Huya flew into the air and was hit by the huge wave of palm energy. He was sent flying again. TSS. A cold light flashed, and the sound of silk ripping made everyone's body go numb. Zheng Yinwu's expression changed, and he looked down at his chest. He knew that Zhao De's light blade was a huge threat. It was much more powerful than his cultivation level, and could even threaten him. That was why he had put on his treasured armor in advance, so that he would not be afraid of the light blade. However, he did not expect the treasured armor to be useless and the blade to pierce through it. The power of Chu Li's condensed blade was peerless. It broke through the treasured armor without any obstruction and pierced through the body. Zheng Yanwu turned around and left, disappearing in a flash like a shadow. Chu Li stood quietly at the main entrance, coldly looking in the direction where Zheng Yanwu disappeared. Everyone was shocked and then cheered. They all saw the saber flash by, but it pierced through Zheng Yanwu. Chu Li slowly walked towards the two women and smiled. "Senior sisters, you almost lost your life, didn't you?" Li Rulin said angrily. "Hurry up and help us in." Chu Li helped the two women up with each hand and slowly walked through the main door. He ignored the people from Gale Branch and their moans and screams. After a while, Chu Li came out again and tossed 4 jade bottles to Huya. 2 for each of you, 3 for those who perform well, and 4 for you. "Many thanks, branch leader." Huya received the jade bottle in a flurry. He was overjoyed. Chu Li raised his voice and shouted, "I still have more light pills. Let's see if you're capable enough to take them." "Yes," everyone answered loudly. Such a generous reward made them so excited that their injuries seemed to have lightened. Chu Li returned to the hall and came to a small courtyard. The two women lay side by side on the bed. Their faces were pale and lifeless. He sat in front of their bed and frowned at them. Damn Zheng Yanwu, what an insidious palm energy. The palm energy that the two women suffered could restrain the light pill. The palm energy dissolved the light pill's medicinal effect, causing their injuries to worsen. If this continued, they would die in less than an hour. This must be the white tiger sect's most insidious white tiger soul devouring technique. Li Rulin lay on her back on the bed. Her chest rose and fell violently as she panted. "The light pill is useless. If you want to save us, your inner energy must be purer and deeper than his. So there's no hope." Chu Li scoffed. "You'll definitely die? So be it. We'll die sooner or later." Lu Zhen lay in Li Rulin's arms. Her delicate and gentle face was calm. "It's a pity that we can't enter the light realm. Zheng Yanwu purposely prevented us from entering the light realm. What an insidious fellow," Li Rulin said. "You must be careful of him. He might not be careless next time." The blade earlier was breathtaking but could not be replicated. With so many people distracting Zheng Yanwu, Zhao Dai had the chance to shoot that blade. Zheng Yanwu would not be so careless next time. Chu Li said, "I'll save you first." As he spoke, he took out a jade bottle and poured out 4 light pills. Then he stuffed 2 pills into their mouths. After Li Rulin opened her mouth and swallowed the pills, she shook her head and said, "We're just stalling for time. These 2 light pills can only buy us an hour." "Junior brother, did you refine these light pills?" Lu Zhen asked. "Refining light pills is a piece of cake as long as we have enough spirit herbs. Take 2 pills in an hour. We have plenty of light pills. If we can last until we return to the Great Light Peak, the saint can save you." "All right," Li Rulin nodded. They believed that the saint had a way to break the white tiger soul devouring technique. However, after a while, Chu Li's face turned gloomy. The white tiger soul devouring technique instantly devoured the medicinal effects of the 2 light pills and turned them into his own energy. The two women's injuries worsened. The light pills were useless now. In the blink of an eye, the two women's injuries worsened and worsened rapidly. Their green aura became thicker, and they were about to die. They felt their vision turning black and were about to be devoured by the darkness. Their bodies turned cold. Li Rulin tried her best to open her eyes. Her originally bright eyes had become dull. "Junior brother, if I die, cut off a strand of my hair and give it to senior brother Ji." Chu Li said, "Senior sister Li, why are you so worried? He's already gone." "That's true." Li Rulin sighed. "It's good for him to forget about me." Lu Zhen forced a smile. "Junior sister, you're very affectionate." Chu Li's expression changed. He looked deeply at the two women. He watched as their vitality slowly dissipated from their graceful bodies and was gradually devoured by the darkness and coldness. In the end, he sighed and bent down to press on their breasts. "You," Li Ruolin and Lu Jun widened their eyes and stared at him in disbelief. Chu Li closed his eyes and ignored them. The two women struggled to pry his large hands away, but they felt a cool force entering their chests. The white tiger soul devouring technique's inner energy was like a wolf that saw a lamb. It pounced on this force. In a flash, the white tiger soul devouring technique's inner energy entered Chu Li's body through his palm. After a few revolutions of the cloud slashing power, it assimilated the inner energy and disappeared without a trace. Li Ruolin was right. A purer inner energy was needed to overcome the white tiger soul devouring technique. The cloud slashing power was indeed useful. Chu Li's palms continued to press on their chests. The spiritual energy surged into their chests, and their spirits were lifted. Chu Li stopped and stuffed a light pill into their mouths. The pill's energy instantly turned into a cool force, and their vitality was restored. The two women opened their eyes and looked at him in confusion. Chu Li said, "The Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture is mysterious, right?" As expected of the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. Li Ruolin nodded lightly. Lu Jun said, "Junior brother Zhao, you saved our lives again. We're even," Chu Li said. Chapter 3787. Senior sisters, rest well and recuperate. I'll go after Zheng Yinwu. Chu Li said. Don't go. Li Ruolin frowned. You're no match for him, even if he's injured. Chu Li smiled. The blade force of my blade is similar to the white tiger soul devouring technique. His injuries will only worsen. It won't be that easy to heal. His inner energy is more profound. He's able to break through your saber force. Li Ruolin said, if the white tiger soul devouring art could be broken by a purer inner energy, then so could Zhao Dai's saber force. Chu Li said, it's not that easy. He'll be a scourge if he's left alive. We were lucky to be able to injure him this time, but what about next time? Are you going to stay here forever? Li Ruolin furrowed her curved eyebrows. It's impossible for us to stay even if we want to. We don't have enough manpower in the church, so we need to be on standby at all times. Lu Jin chuckled. We're all busy, but we can't compare to you, junior brother Zhao. Chu Li scoffed. I'm willing to work hard, but the saint won't let me. All right. Li Ruolin interrupted his grumbling. If the saint heard him, he would be in deep trouble. All right, I'm leaving now. Chu Li waved his hand and ignored Li Ruolin's greeting as he strode away. He left the Gale branch and headed northeast. Zheng Yinwu felt his inner force gushing out of his wound at a speed faster than his blood. Although he was shocked, he did not lose his composure. He knew that he was in a life and death situation. He had to find a place to recuperate and heal his wounds as soon as possible before coming out to settle the score with Zhao Dai. As he used his light body technique, the rate at which his inner energy was drained increased. Half of his inner energy had already been drained the moment he left Gale City. At this rate, he would run out of inner energy not too far away from the city. Once he ran out of inner energy, he would not be able to heal himself, and his condition would only worsen. He pondered for a moment and realized that the most dangerous place might actually be the safest. In terms of the depth of their foundation in Gale City, the Holy Church of Light was far inferior to the White Tiger sect. He immediately returned to Gale City and entered a small alley. Then, he entered an ordinary family's house. There was an old man living in this family. His eyebrows and beard were all white, and he was senile. There was no one else in the family. He was a widower. The old man was currently lying in an old rocking chair in the courtyard, bathing in the sunset as he rocked back and forth leisurely. He was even humming a tune, leisurely and enjoying himself. Old song. Zheng Yinwu landed in his courtyard and said in a low voice. The old man quickly got up. When he saw Zheng Yinwu, he was shocked. He quickly cupped his fists and said in pleasant surprise, Young master. Zheng Yinwu covered the wound with one hand and waved his other hand. I'm injured. I need to heal myself immediately. Don't let anyone find out. Don't worry, young master. This place is very secretive. Elder Song quickly nodded and asked with concern, Are your injuries serious? I won't die for now. Zheng Yinwu snorted. Old Song asked, "What should we prepare? Find a secret place. I want to go into seclusion to heal my injuries." Zheng Yinwu said, "Follow me, young master." Old Song brought him to a pagoda in the backyard and activated a mechanism in the pagoda. With a rumbling sound, the pagoda's steps shrank inwards, revealing a dark hole. Zheng Yinwu followed Old Song into the secret underground chamber. Below was an empty stone room. There was food and water stored, so there was no need to go down every day. The air in the stone room was clear and fresh. The vent was located in a flower bed, so there was a faint fragrance in the air. "Young master, feel free to heal yourself here. Do you want me to deliver a letter?" Old Song asked. Zheng Yinwu shook his head. "Don't do anything lest you arouse suspicion. I'll get back at you after I recover." "Yes, young master." Old Song nodded. Zheng Yinwu covered his wound and sized him up. "It's been so many years. You've aged a lot." Old Song smiled and said, "Young master, you look younger and younger. I look young on the outside, but my heart is old. This time, I lost my son in my old age. I want to avenge my son, but I didn't expect my enemy to be so troublesome." Zheng Yinwu shook his head and sighed. "Go." "Yes." Old Song cupped his fists, went up the secret chamber, and entered the pagoda. With a rumbling sound, the stairs extended out again, covering the hole and returning to its original state. Outsiders could not discover the secret chamber. Old Song continued to sit on the deck chair in the front yard. As he bathed in the sunset, the past came to his mind. Back then, he followed his young master to explore the martial arts world. After surviving through a storm of swords and blades, his martial arts were crippled. In the end, he settled down in Gale City and became a wealthy man. He lived in peace for so many years. In the blink of an eye, he had not seen his young master for 50 years. His young master was the same as before, but he had aged. He had always been content with what he had. He felt that it was good enough to be alive. After experiencing bloodshed, it was a blessing to be alive. However, when he saw his young master again, he suddenly felt a little unwilling. Was he really going to spend his entire life in such a plain and quiet way and gradually become one? Was he going to walk the earth for nothing? His ambition that had been worn down by his peaceful life and his fighting spirit that had been extinguished by losing his martial arts began to recover. He started to circulate the heart technique that he had not practiced for a long time. However, his dried meridians were no longer breathing. He sighed dejectedly. Feeling vexed, he pulled open the courtyard door and walked out. Slowly, strolling away, he walked slowly to the 9-star tower. As soon as he entered the 9-star tower, he heard about the battle at Gale Branch. "Good fella, this Zheng Yinwu is indeed a hidden master." All the masters of Gale Branch charged at him, but he only used one move, and everyone was sent flying. Then, Zheng Yinwu injured 2 female disciples of the Holy Church of Light. They were both beauties. He forced Zhao De to show himself, or else he would kill the 2 beauties. The disciples of Gale Branch charged at him with no regard for their lives to save the 2 beauties. Coincidentally, there was a flash of a blade. Zhao De finally made his move. The light blade pierced through Zheng Yinwu. Is Zhao De's light blade really that powerful? My brother-in-law is a disciple of Gale Branch. He's recuperating at home. I just want to visit him with some snacks. This is what I heard from him. I saw it with my own eyes. It's inevitable that it's a little exaggerated. It's not exaggerated at all. It was just one move. Moreover, Zheng Yinwu is really powerful. There were more than 30 top-notch masters in Gale Branch, but he took care of them in one move. Elder Song sat at a table and listened to the discussions without changing his expression. He soon understood the cause and effect. He sighed to himself that the martial arts world was indeed dangerous. There would always be someone stronger than the strong. Who would have thought that the young master was so powerful, but he was defeated by such a young Zhao De. However, it was exciting to be in such a martial arts world. Unfortunately, his lifespan was coming to an end. If he could recover his cultivation level, he could live for another 100 years or even 200 years. The older one was, the more he was afraid of death. The more he did not want to die, the more he was unwilling to die. If he could recover his martial arts and live for another 100 years, he was willing to pay any price. He drank a few glasses of wine, but his mouth was tasteless. He slowly walked down the 9-star tower and headed back to his house with a heart full of worries. As soon as he entered the narrow alley, he saw an ugly young man in a green robe standing in the middle of the narrow alley. Elder Song was on guard, but he continued to approach the young man as if nothing had happened. The two of them approached each other and finally passed each other. Elder Song sighed in relief. He maintained his original speed and slowly walked away from the young man. "Do you want to recover your martial arts?" The ugly young man asked as if he was talking to the air. Elder Song paused and continued walking forward. The ugly young man continued, "I have one of the Holy Church of Light's miracle cure pills." Chapter 3788. Wait! Elder Song turned his head. The ugly young man paused for a moment before continuing to walk. Elder Song asked, "Who are you?" "Zhao De." The ugly young man waved his hand and continued to walk further away from him. Elder Song asked, "What's your condition?" Chuli stopped and turned his head. "White tiger power." Elder Song sighed in relief. Fortunately, he was not going against Master. Then he became cautious. Why did he want the white tiger power from him? It was obvious that he knew about his relationship with Master. Chuli said, "Don't worry, I'm not asking you to fight Zheng Yanwu." Elder Song finally concluded that he knew Master was hiding in his house. Chuli said, "I want the complete white tiger power. If you can get it, I'll exchange it with the miracle cure pill." "How do I know you're not lying to me?" Elder Song said. His heart was racing. Of course, he knew about the miracle cure pill. It was a unique medicine from the Holy Church of Light that could restore martial arts. It was impossible for an ordinary disciple to obtain it. Zhao De was a genius among geniuses. He was nurtured and protected by the Holy Church of Light. It was not surprising that he had the miracle cure pill. If he could consume the miracle cure pill, he could recover his martial arts that had been crippled for many years. His lifespan would be extended to 200 years or even 300 years. It was an irresistible temptation for someone like him who only had a few years left to live. Chuli said, "I, Zhao De, will never break a promise. You can ask around about me. Besides, it's just a miracle cure pill. It's not a big deal." "You'll kill me," Elder Song said. Chuli glanced at him and said coldly, "Why would I? Will the White Tiger sect forgive me if I don't secretly learn the White Tiger power? What can the White Tiger sect do to me if I secretly learn the White Tiger power? You'll be the one to leak it, right?" Elder Song was speechless and slowly nodded. Although Master would be punished by the sect for leaving the mountain without permission and breaking the rule that century-old masters were not allowed to roam the martial arts world, the sect would not let it go if Zhao De killed Master. They would definitely take revenge. Then he realized that Master was not dead, but he had already treated Master as a dead man. "Do you have the complete White Tiger power technique?" Chuli asked. "Yes," Elder Song said. Chuli looked at him deeply and realized that Elder Song was not lying. He did have the complete White Tiger power technique. "Do you want to trade?" Chuli took out a jade bottle from his inner pocket and poured out a snow-white pill. A small knife as thin as a cicada's wing suddenly appeared between his fingers. With a gentle stroke, the pill was split into two. Chuli tossed him half a pill. "Take this. The other half must be consumed within a quarter of an hour so that the medicinal effects won't disperse." Old Song took it and stared at the half pill that was emitting a strange smell with a gloomy expression. Chuli did not rush him. He just smiled at him. Elder Song was struggling internally. On one hand, he could not betray the White Tiger sect and expose the White Tiger power. On the other hand, he only had a few years to live, and the sect would not help him recover his martial arts. After a few breaths, his desire to survive overwhelmed everything else. He closed his eyes and swallowed the pill. Immediately, a wave of clear qi circled around his internal organs and rushed into his dantian. His dry meridians seemed to have regained their warmth, and his dantian also produced a faint heat. It was as if a seed was about to break out of the soil, but could not. This feeling made him anxious and eager. Chuli smiled. Is it true? Follow me, Elder Song said. Chuli nodded in satisfaction. If you don't play tricks, I can give you the other half anytime. Don't worry, Elder Song said slowly. The two returned to his residence and went into the study. Elder Song took out a thick poetry book from the bookshelf and handed it to him. The incantation and the white tiger portrait are inside. My painting skills may be average, so I can't achieve both form and spirit. Chuli quickly flipped through it. There were a total of 9 white tiger portraits and almost 100 words of incantation. He was deep in thought. These 9 portraits were different from the sun, cultivating white tiger portrait, but there was a faint connection between them. These incantations were profound and difficult to understand, causing him to frown. Your martial arts inheritance uses the enlightenment method, right? Chuli asked. Yes. Elder Song nodded. The 9 portraits use the enlightenment method. Practice it once for me to see, Chuli said. Although Elder Song was curious as to why Chuli wanted to watch him practice, since he could not see anything in his mind, he did not disobey. 15 minutes passed quickly. The restless feeling in his dantian was getting weaker. If the medicine did not keep up, he would not be able to recover his martial arts. At this point, his desire grew and he could not resist Chuli's request. Thus, he sat on the bed and began to channel. The 9 white tiger portraits appeared in his mind one by one. Chuli saw what he was thinking and nodded to himself. This Elder Song was really honest. He really passed the white tiger power to him and did not play tricks to harm him. It's done, Chuli said. Elder Song opened his eyes with a complicated expression. Actually, it's useless even if you know the white tiger power. The incantation is difficult, and the white tiger sect has a large number of complicated cultivation notes. Without the cultivation notes of these senior masters, even if you get the incantation, you won't be able to understand it and cultivate it. Chuli said, You don't have to worry about that. Come, this is the other half. He threw the remaining half of the pill to Elder Song. Elder Song hesitated for a moment and glanced at him before putting it into his mouth. He was also worried that Chuli would play tricks in the pill. He was not a grandmaster now and did not have a sense of danger. Even if it was poisonous, he would not be able to detect it in advance. However, he had no other choice now. He could only bet on Chuli's character. A wave of fresh air entered his internal organs and gathered in his dantian. The originally restless force suddenly expanded like a seed breaking out of the ground. Traces of inner energy gathered in his dantian and became thicker and thicker, from an acquired master to an innate master, then to a grandmaster. Bang! His clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. His snow-white beard and eyebrows fluttered as if he was in a strong wind. Chuli looked at him with a smile. Elder Song opened his eyes. They were so bright that it was almost tangible. Chuli fist saluted. Congratulations. Elder Song fist saluted. He was inexplicably grateful. He did not expect Chuli to keep his promise. Chuli said, Since we had a pleasant trade, I'll give you a word of advice. Please say it. Elder Song said. Chuli said, Leave this place so that the White Tiger sect won't vent their anger on you. The world is so big, there's nowhere you can't go. Elder Song frowned at him. Chuli said, Because you were a cripple, the Holy Church's elders did not kill you. Elder Song shook his head. I won't abandon young master. He's already dead. Chuli fist saluted and glided away. He appeared in Gale Branch. When he arrived at the house of the 2 women, he saw a beautiful middle-aged woman treating the 2 women. The 2 women sat side by side on the bed, while the beautiful middle-aged woman sat behind them. She pressed her palm on each of their backs as white steam rose from her hair. Chuli sat at the side and watched without disturbing them. After 10 minutes, the middle-aged woman withdrew her palms and opened her eyes to look at him. Chuli fist saluted. This is Master's Junior Tsunghua. Li Ruolin opened her eyes. Chuli said, Master's Junior Tsung is here to help us, right? Chapter 3789. Shaoqi walked beside him and said, I didn't expect them to come to send us off. Chu Li smiled. I'm popular. Xiao Qi glared at him. They're here to watch you, aren't they? Chu Li shook his head and laughed. The human heart is sinister, but not to this extent. Our journey won't be peaceful, and it's all thanks to Lady Xiao Qi's protection. Why don't you want the protectors to follow us? Xiao Qi frowned. You're enough, Lady Xiao Qi. I don't want anyone to disturb us. Xiao Qi frowned even more and glared at him. This isn't the time to fool around. Lady Xiao Qi, you've been cultivating in isolation, but the regal sword scripture is a sword scripture. It needs to be honed in actual combat. Your progress has stagnated because of the lack of actual combat. This trip to the Imperial Mausoleum is your journey of cultivation. If you're not careful, you'll lose your life. That's why you can only move forward bravely. You can't retreat or avoid. I hope you've made the right choice, Xiao Qi said slowly. She seemed to have reached a bottleneck in the regal sword scripture, and it was useless no matter how much she cultivated. Chu Li's earlier words about how one could only forget their emotions helped her a little, but the lack of actual combat was indeed a big problem. She suddenly felt a warmth in her heart. At this time, he was still thinking about her and putting his life in her hands just to hone his cultivation. Chu Li glanced at her and smiled to himself. The two of them rode on the road. After passing through Qingyan town, there were fewer pedestrians on the road, as if they were the only two people left in the world. After traveling for half a day, they went into a post house to rest. Seeing that Chu Li looked normal and did not look tired, Xiao Qi was secretly relieved. After being crippled of his martial arts, his body would become extremely weak, weaker than an ordinary person. If he continued to travel, he would easily fall sick. Xiao Qi took out braised meat and dry food, as well as a few fruits, and placed them on the table. Chu Li first ate a fruit, then a few pieces of braised meat and dry food. He drank a few mouthfuls of water and sighed. Soon, it won't be this peaceful anymore. You'll have to prepare for battle. Xiao Qi chewed and swallowed a piece of dry food slowly and nodded. Chu Li pointed at the forest opposite. There are 4 masters over there, and they're all swordsman masters. Xiao Qi frowned at him. Chu Li smiled. Although my martial arts have been crippled, my senses are still there. Xiao Qi swallowed the dry food in her mouth and took a sip of water. After wiping her hands with a silk handkerchief, she flew up with her sword and flipped to the top of the gazebo. She shrunk her body and hid in the direction Chu Li pointed at. The 4 men in black stepped on the treetops and approached him. When they saw Chu Li sitting alone, they were overjoyed. They drew their swords and used the sun-piercing white rainbow to stab down from the sky. TSS, 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 TSS. Xiao Qi appeared behind them and slashed their throats with a flash of her sword. She could also see through people's hearts and sense their killing intent. Naturally, she would not be polite. Pung, 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 pung. The 4 of them fell below the gazebo, unable to step into it. Their bodies twitched as they died. The sword chi of the regal sword sutra instantly shattered their brains, and they couldn't be more dead. Chu Li clapped his hands and smiled. Lady Xiao Yi's sword technique is profound. I'm impressed. Xiao Qi replied, It's very normal. Chu Li smiled. These 4 people's sword techniques are extraordinary. It's a pity that they were eager to kill me, but there will be more masters in the future. Xiao Qi nodded slowly. You have to be careful too. Even if your martial arts are gone, you should still have your step technique, right? What about your divine power? Chu Li replied, I still have my divine power. God's limbs too? Yes. Xiao Qi let out a long sigh of relief. If he had God's limbs, he could escape at any time, so she didn't have to worry. She then rolled her eyes at Chu Li. He made it sound so good that she thought he had entrusted everything to her. Now it seemed like she was overthinking. Chu Li said, God's limbs can only reach places that I've been to before. I've never been to the Imperial Mausoleum, so I can't rely on my divine power to go there. I can only walk there, and I'll need you to escort me. That's true. Xiao Qi pondered and nodded. The 2 of them continued on their way. Along the way, there were assassinations from masters from time to time. Some fought alone, some in groups, and some in groups of 3 to 5. Chu Li exposed their tracks one by one so that Xiao Qi could prepare in advance and kill them in one strike. Since Chu Li had God's limbs, Xiao Qi could kill without restraint. After 3 days, more than 40 masters had died in Xiao Qi's hands. Every day, more than 10 masters died under her sword. In a short period of time, her title as the Ruthless Fairy had spread. Her swordsmanship was unpredictable and unavoidable. Almost every time she attacked, someone would die. She was called the Ruthless Fairy because of her fairy-like temperament. She wore a white tunic and a white veil that covered her face. Her temperament was clear and aloof. Xiao Qi's swordsmanship improved by leaps and bounds. She had been training hard in seclusion, and her understanding of swordsmanship was enough, but she lacked real sharpening. Moreover, she did not have many opportunities to fight since she was young. Even when she was adventuring in the martial arts world, because of her cold personality, she rarely caused trouble and did not have many fights. This time, when she escorted Chu Li and dealt with many assassinations, the intense battles in just 3 days were comparable to the battles in the past few years. Her original understanding of swordsmanship was gradually applied to swordsmanship, and her swordsmanship improved rapidly. Her original bottleneck was slowly loosened, and she was about to advance another level. Chu Li clearly saw her changes and was happy for her. He was strong enough now, so he was not afraid of Xiao Qi's rapid advancement. He was confident that he could break through her inner state. That evening, the sunset illuminated the dense forest red. The two of them led the horses deep into the forest and tied the horses to a tree so that they could graze on the tender grass. The two of them chopped down 3 trees and sat on tree stumps to make a bonfire. The weather was cold and winter was coming soon. They sat next to the bonfire and roasted 2 pheasants. The golden oil dripped onto the firewood and gave off a rich aroma. Chu Li suddenly turned his head to look behind Xiao Qi and sighed. Someone's coming. Xiao Qi leaped up and went up to the treetop. Before she could move again, a white shadow shot in front of her. Ding, 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 ding. Xiao Qi's sword was like lightning, but a slender finger kept hitting the blade, making the sound of metal colliding. Xiao Qi's sword could not break through the opponent's finger and was slightly inferior. The owner of the finger was a woman dressed in white with a white veil covering her face. Only a pair of almond-shaped eyes could be seen. She was graceful and charming. When she fought, it was as if she was dancing and it was pleasing to the eye. "Miss Liu," Chu Li said. The woman in white paused and was almost pierced by Xiao Qi's sword. She leaped in front of Chu Li. Xiao Qi saw that the situation was not good and stood in front of her, afraid that she would hurt Chu Li. Chu Li smiled. "Lady Xiao, Miss Liu, both of you should take a break." Lu Yurong said lightly, "Third Lady Xiao, your martial arts did not improve. You are no match for me." Xiao Qi said, "Not necessarily." "All right." Lu Yurong lightly struck out with her palm. The tip of Xiao Qi's sword stabbed into her palm. Lu Yurong turned her wrist and rotated her finger. Like sweeping a bowstring, she deflected the tip of the sword and hit Xiao Qi's chest. Bang! Xiao Qi took a hit and swung her sword. Lu Yurong took a step to avoid it and hit Xiao Qi's shoulder again. "Miss Liu," Chu Li said. Chapter 3790. Chu Li sighed. "Miss Liu, you're here to watch me play." "Of course." Lu Yurong chuckled. "I cultivated in isolation just to defeat you. You, on the other hand, cripple my martial arts so easily. How could I let go of such a good opportunity?" Chu Li said, "Are you happy now?" He could see that Lu Yurong's martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. It seemed that not only him, but Lu Yurong was also advancing quickly. Her cultivation of the Empyrean goddess is the most compatible with her physique. Her cultivation is twice the result with half the effort. The Empyrean goddess power is also a boast. As soon as she finished speaking, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from outside. 24 men in black appeared and surrounded the 3 of them. Lu Yurong frowned and glanced at them. Chu Li said, "Miss Liu, you didn't call them here, did you?" Lu Yurong scoffed. "So what if I did?" Chu Li knew that these people were not with Lu Yurong. Their movement technique was extremely fast, as if they had already determined their whereabouts. It seemed that there was a tracking master among them. Xiaoqi looked at Lu Yurong. "Leave no one alive. Kill them all," one of the men in black said. As soon as he finished speaking, a white shadow flashed, and Xiaoqi appeared in front of him. Her sword flashed and pierced through his throat. The man in black wanted to attack, but he felt pain in his throat. Boundless darkness surged and swallowed him. Xiaoqi's movement technique was extremely fast. The power of the regal sword scripture was amazing. It was slightly weaker than Lu Yurong, but against the others, it was easy. Most of the others surrounded Xiaoqi while a small group attacked Chu Li. Lu Yurong smiled at Chu Li. She did not plan to attack. Chu Li glanced at her helplessly. He took a step forward and dodged a sword. He then took another step and dodged another sword. It was as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He dodged a sword with every step he took. 6 people surrounded him, but none of them could touch him. Lu Yurong smiled. "Looks like your eyesight is still there." Suddenly, Xiaoqi flashed and appeared behind Chu Li. She pierced one person's throat with her sword, and with a flash of her sword, she pierced another person's throat. She killed one person with each strike, and it was a clean and efficient move. However, there were more than 10 people surrounding her, so she had to kill them one by one. Chu Li said, "All right, Miss Lu, I owe you one." Lu Yurong chuckled. Her body turned into a blurry white shadow. The Empyrean fairy palm was like a butterfly flipping through flowers, light and graceful. Bang, 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 bang. Wherever the palm shadow passed, the 6 black-robed men let out muffled groans and were sent flying. When they landed on the ground, they lay there motionless, dead. Chu Li shook his head. Xiaoqi frowned. Her sword was fast enough, but it was still slower than Lu Yurong. However, she was not impatient at all. Instead, she focused even more on her sword. Lu Yurong moved again. The Empyrean fairy palm fluttered like a butterfly. Her delicate and fair little hand looked like the palm of death to the men in black. They tried their best to dodge or even escape, but it was too late. Wherever the palm energy passed, people were sent flying and killed instantly. Xiaoqi did not stop swinging her sword, and her movements became faster and faster. Her swordsmanship became more and more clean, simple, and fast. In the end, her sword even circled 3 men's throats, twice as fast as before. It was not any slower than Lu Yurong's speed of killing. Lu Yurong could also see that Xiaoqi's swordsmanship had improved by another level. She scoffed. "Chu Li, you have a good plan. You are using these assassins for Third Lady Xiao to practice, aren't you? How devoted." Chu Li smiled. "Thank you, Miss Lu. If there's nothing else, please leave. Burn the bridge after crossing it." "But I really don't have anything else to do," Lu Yurong said lightly. "That's why I can accompany you and see how many assassins there are." "Forget it," Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong frowned slightly. Her eyes became cold. Chu Li did not care. If the 2 women were to be together, even if one was smart and the other cold, they would still be enemies. They had been fighting for so many years there would be chaos. He did not want to be involved. "All right, if you want to follow, then follow," Xiaoqi said lightly. Chu Li looked at her. Xiaoqi said, "Miss Lu will help." "Of course," Lu Yurong said with a smile. "If Chu Li is in danger, I will help." Chapter 3791. After killing all the assassins in the surroundings, the 3 of them could only find another place to settle down. In another part of the forest, there was a bonfire, and the 3 of them sat beside it. Both Lu Yurong and Xiaoqi took off their white veils. One of them had a charming face, while the other had a pure and beautiful face. Both of them were good at their own game, and it was hard to tell who was better. The surrounding air became much fresher. "King Ping has relinquished his military authority. I heard that you were the one who persuaded him." Lu Yurong tossed a piece of firewood into the room. She dusted her hands and looked at Chu Li with her almond-shaped eyes. Chu Li sat opposite her. "Who said that? What do you think?" Lu Yurong said. Chu Li pondered for a moment before he shook his head. "It's not my fault. King Ping is disheartened and doesn't want to fight at the border anymore. He's tired of it. He's killed so many Li Dynasty's cavalrymen and protected the Ji Dynasty, but he couldn't protect Madame. He's become disheartened. Don't tell me you're blaming the emperor. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. A little, Chu Li replied. The emperor could protect all the Wang Ye, but he didn't care about the Wang Fei's life or death. Furthermore, it was the Wang Fei that was not by his side, guarding the border. She needed someone to protect her, but the emperor couldn't protect her. How could King Ping not feel resentful? If he didn't express his resentment, he would have buried it in his heart. Instead, it would have been stronger and left behind hidden dangers. If he expressed it, the emperor would feel relieved. Lu Yurong said, so His Majesty threw the secret Guardians Hall's deputy commander into the Imperial Mausoleum, and threw you, a centurion, in as well? Chu Li glanced at her without saying a word. Lu Yurong chuckled. Or is it because you blindly interfered and still have a conscience that you ended up like this? Why bother asking if you already know? Chu Li scoffed. Let's see if you're lying. Lu Yurong smiled and said, at least you didn't lie to me. But it's really tragic for you to end up like this. You've been crippled of your martial arts and sent to the Imperial Mausoleum. There's no hope for you to return to the fairies' capital. Your life is over. Chu Li nodded. Yes, my life is over. But I see that you are quite calm. Lu Yurong looked him up and down. She initially thought that Chu Li would be in a daze. Confidence did not come out of thin air. It was because of his strength. Chu Li was in high spirits because of his martial arts. If he lost his martial arts, he would naturally lose his confidence. Unexpectedly, Chu Li was still in high spirits and did not look down at all. She could not help but admire him for being able to remain calm and unmoved in the face of adversity. This was true courage. She had always admired Chu Li's great courage, which was far beyond what she could achieve. Chu Li said, even if I lose my martial arts, I can still live a free and unfettered life with my intelligence. He. Lu Yurong giggled. Xiao Yao Zai you wish. Chu Li shook his head and said nothing. Xiao Qi faintly asked, Lu Yurong, what do you know? Oh, third Miss Xiao, are you worried? Lu Yurong looked at her with a smile. I won't say it. Xiao Qi frowned. Will there be trouble at the Imperial Mausoleum? Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Chu Li asked, King Jing, are you relieved now? Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. King Ping might be taking a step back in order to advance. Chu Li secretly sighed. Lu Yurong was indeed smart. He said, no matter what, he took a step back. King Jing can take this opportunity to infiltrate the military. Miss Lu, you'll be very busy too. Do you still have the time to come and watch me? There's no hurry. Lu Yurong's fair and delicate lips curled up. She was excited when she saw King Jing's hope of ascending to the throne. Since her biggest opponent was in trouble, of course, she had to come and show off. Xiao Qi said, there's still 10 years. 10 years may seem fast, but can also be very slow. Who knows what will happen in the future? She said, Chu Li has practiced martial arts for less than 2 years. It'll be faster if he cultivates again. Besides, it's not that difficult for me to ask for a life recovery pill from Green Deer Cliff. No matter how indifferent she was and how competitive she was, she could not bear to see Lu Yurong being so smug. Especially when Chu Li was down, it was like pouring salt on his wound, making him feel even more pain. Lu Yurong's expression changed slightly. She thought of Xiao Yueling and could not help but scoff. Crippling his martial arts is for the emperor to see. How can he recover so quickly? Is he messing with the emperor? Chu Li smiled. Miss Lu, although I can't help King Jing succeed, it's still easy for me to ruin his plans. Lu Yurong squinted her eyes. Chu Li and her stared at each other. Their eyes were reflecting the fire. Chu Li suddenly looked to his left and raised his voice. Fa Yuan, since you're here, come out and meet me. Ba Buddha. A Buddhist chant was heard. It was peaceful and quiet. It slowly traveled to the three people's ears. Fa Yuan's gray robe fluttered. He came to the bonfire and bowed with pressed palms. Brother Chu, ladies. Chu Li smiled. Fa Yuan, are you here to laugh at me? Fa Yuan smiled. The world is unpredictable. I didn't expect this day to come, Brother Chu. The world is unpredictable. I didn't expect to see you, Fa Yuan, under such circumstances. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong scoffed. Monk, why are you here? Fa Yuan smiled. If almsgiver Lu can come, why can't I? They're just some small fry. They can't even withstand a single blow. Chu Li smiled. There's no need for you to come. If Brother Chu is hurt by these small fry, it'll be a great shame. Fa Yuan shook his head. Lu Yurong scoffed. Monk, you and Chu Li are known as the Twin Prides. Are you afraid of weakening your reputation? Fa Yuan smiled without saying a word. Shao Qi asked, Master Fa Yuan, do you know the truth about the Imperial Mausoleum? The inner mausoleum, the outer mausoleum, and adjacent town. Fa Yuan nodded. Brother Chu's martial arts will be crippled. He'll enter the small town next to the Imperial Mausoleum and serve there. Lu Yurong scoffed. I'm here on King Jing's orders to inform the mayor to take care of Chu Li. I'll give you a job. Are you satisfied? Thank you, King Jing. Chu Li fist saluted. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Fa Yuan said, the people serving in the town are sent to guard the Imperial Mausoleum. Some of the residents are from the outer mausoleum, and some are family members from the inner mausoleum. The small town is very safe. Don't worry. Shao Qi sighed in relief. Chu Li said, let's hurry up tomorrow and reach adjacent town as soon as possible. He chatted with Fa Yuan and asked about the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. He wanted to know if there was a way to restrain it. Fa Yuan shook his head. The reincarnation temple's inheritance was completely different from the Titanium Temple and the Tempest Temple. Moreover, the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture had always been mysterious. He really did not know how to restrain it. For the next 2 days, the journey was very quiet. It was as if the assassins did not dare to come after seeing that there were so many of them and tactfully left. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, they arrived at a small town that was about the same size as Qingyun Town. It was bustling with people. The 4 of them went straight to the town defense prefecture. The town defense prefecture was located in the center of the town. It looked shabby and dilapidated. It was not even close to being luxurious. Moreover, the security was lax. There were only 2 protectors guarding the gate. Other than that, there were no other protectors in the prefecture. Chang Gui was short and plump. He sat in an armchair in the main hall of the town defense prefecture. He was smiling and did not look dignified at all. Instead, he looked like a spring breeze. He was a grandmaster with a profound cultivation level. Chang Gui looked Chu Li up and down. Head Chief Chu Li, I've heard of your name here. Chu Li fist saluted. Chapter 3792. The 4 of them looked at Chang Gui. Chang Gui was still smiling at Chu Li. Sweeping a street shouldn't be a difficult task, right? Chu Li closed fist saluted. Yes. Chang Gui stared at him as if he was trying to read his every expression. In the end, he shook his head in disappointment. All right then, since you've just arrived, take a rest first. Don't be sick and stay in bed. Start tomorrow. Come over tomorrow after breakfast, and someone will bring you along. Yes. Chu Li revealed a smile and slowly asked, I wonder which of the mayor's relatives you cherish the most. The question was abrupt and strange. Chang Gui frowned at him. Chu Li shook his head. Should I find my own place to stay? You can stay wherever you want as long as you don't delay the task. Chang Gui waved his hand impatiently. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Goodbye. The 4 of them left the town defense prefecture with a sour expression. It was obvious that the job of sweeping a street was a show of strength. He, a dignified rank 1 Imperial Guard, sweeping the streets was simply an insult to him. This city guard seemed to be smiling, but his eyes were filled with hostility. Lu Yurong suddenly burst into laughter. Sweeping a street is a good job. I'll go on a tour tomorrow and learn from everyone in Fairy's capital. I'll help you make a name for yourself. Shao Qi looked at her in dissatisfaction. Lu Yurong smiled. Chu Li, why don't you reject the job? If I do, there's a better job waiting for me. Chu Li said, transporting feces. This is even more vicious. Lu Yurong exclaimed. Fa Yuan asked, Brother Chu, are you going to accept it just like that? Chu Li had been deep in thought. He smiled. He's a local tyrant. Of course I won't sweep the street. What should we do? Fa Yuan asked. He's a powerful man. I can only obey him and not disobey him. The town defense prefecture was the highest official in the city and reported directly to the imperial court. Chu Li was now assigned to the imperial mausoleum. If he did not listen to the town defense prefecture and submitted a report, the emperor would be furious and punish him even more severely. Not only would he not be able to return, but he would also be in a worse situation. His martial arts had been crippled, and he was just waiting for the emperor to let him return to Fairy's capital so that he could quickly recover his martial arts. All he was waiting for was a word from the emperor. Chu Li smiled. Everyone has their weaknesses. Fa Yuan looked at him in confusion. Shao Qi said, I'll buy a residence first and settle down. Chu Li shook his head. There's no rush. We'll stay in first. They quickly found an inn in the city and asked for a small courtyard. Fa Yuan and Lu Yurong had no intention of leaving. Chu Li ordered a banquet and sat in the gazebo in the courtyard. Lu Yurong ate a few mouthfuls of food and took 2 sips of wine. She smiled and said, Fine, I'll help you plead for him. Give him His Highness King Jing's letter. Chu Li shook his head. Forget it. Lu Yurong gave him a sidelong glance. Why? You don't want to owe His Highness King Jing a favor? Chu Li said, I'm just afraid that His Highness King Jing isn't as influential as you think. Lu Yurong smiled and shook her head. You think too highly of him. Chu Li shook his head and smiled without saying a word. Chang Gui sat in the hall and rubbed his bulging belly with satisfaction. The feeling of stepping on a proud son of heaven under his feet was too enchanting, making him excited and satisfied. He stroked his beard and sighed again, a little unsatisfied. Unfortunately, Chu Li was too tactful and did not give him a chance to explode. He originally thought that Chu Li, who was proud and arrogant, would not be able to keep his cool when he heard about this lowly task. After all, he was young and full of vigor. He would definitely be unconvinced and question him. Then, he would smile and ask him if he wanted to do this task. Chu Li would definitely say no. Then he would announce his other task, which was to help transport feces. At this time, he would not be able to refuse. If he did, then he would have to write a book to make this proud son of heaven fall into the dust and never be able to make a comeback. Thinking of this, he was inexplicably excited. He licked his lips as if he was facing a feast. Then he shook his head and sighed. It was a pity that Chu Li was so tactful and flexible. He actually agreed to it. This guy was so slippery that he dodged a bullet. Suddenly, he felt something and looked up. Lu Yurong, whose face was covered by a white veil and was dressed in a white robe, was standing in the hall. His heart skipped a beat. This woman's cultivation level was very high. However, no matter how high her cultivation level was, she would not dare to do anything to him. His Royal Highness King Jing has a letter from Mayor Chong. She took out the letter from her sleeves and gently let go. The waterproof envelope floated as if it was carried by an invisible hand and arrived in front of Chang Gui at a moderate speed. Chang Gui received it calmly. After tearing it open, he glanced at the white paper and gently placed it on the table beside him. Mayor Chong, what do you think? Lu Yurong asked. Chang Gui grinned and said, This Chu Li's reputation is quite extraordinary. He hasn't even arrived, but the letters from the Royal Highnesses have already arrived. To be honest, not only have I received a letter from His Royal Highness King Jing, but I've also received letters from Prince Bao, Prince Kong, and Prince Ping. They've asked me to take care of Chu Li. Lu Yurong frowned and suddenly understood. Whatever His Royal Highness King Jing thought of, it was impossible for the Royal Highnesses to not have thought of it. He was one step ahead of her. I can't afford to offend the Royal Highnesses. Chang Gui shook his head and sighed. But rules are rules. Without rules, nothing can be done. I'm under the orders of the Imperial Court and His Majesty to guard this city. I have to enforce the law and do things according to the rules. I can't be biased. Changing to a leisurely job isn't to the point of being biased, is it? Lu Yurong frowned and stared at him. Her bright eyes were cold, and she was secretly annoyed. She did not think that Chang Gui was a pure and honest official. He was just seizing the opportunity to show off his strength in order to gain the emperor's favor. He was an opportunistic person who wanted to use Chu Li as a stepping stone to climb up. Chang Gui said in a low voice. Chuli wants to change his job. Others want to change their job too. Everyone is dissatisfied with their job. How can I be convinced by this? Among those who were sent to the imperial mausoleum, some had a chance to turn things around, especially those imperial court officials who did not know martial arts. After arriving at adjacent town, they might be able to return to the imperial court, but some had no chance to turn things around. Chuli was personally sent to the imperial mausoleum by the emperor. He had deceived the emperor and lost his reputation. Once he spoke, the emperor would not go back on his word. How could he change it? Therefore, Chuli had no chance to turn things around. A person like him who could not turn things around and was famous was the best stepping stone for Chang Gui. If Chang Gui taught him a lesson, he would be able to earn the reputation of an honest official and leave adjacent town. There was a chance that he could gain the emperor's favor and return to Fairy's capital. Although the royal highnesses would blame him for not giving them face, as long as he had the reputation of an honest official and did what he wanted, they would eventually be convinced. Moreover, it did not matter even if they held a grudge against him, as long as he could return to Fairy's capital and leave this remote place. Mayor Chang, you have a good plan. I'm just afraid that your plan won't work. Lu Yurong said coldly. Chuli is not someone you can bully as you please. Chapter 3793. Very well, let's wait and see. Lu Yurong turned to leave. I will personally report to the Royal Highnesses about Mayor Chang's straightforwardness. Thank you. Chang Gui cupped his fist and smiled. I can't wait for that. Lu Yurong sneered and turned to leave. Chang Gui stroked his beard and smiled. He was very satisfied with his response. King Jing was the next emperor, but as long as he was the emperor, he would have a different mindset. Not only would he not be angry at his rejection, but he would also value him. He could even reject King Jing, let alone others. How could he not trust such a loyal subject? Chang Gui's smile widened as he thought about it. As for Chuli, he sneered. No matter how capable he was still a cripple after his martial arts were crippled. Now that he was in his own territory, he had no choice but to be obedient. This was a rare opportunity. The one he had been waiting for was finally here. He could not help but laugh. He happily dealt with the documents for a while before he got up and left the main hall. He went to the backyard garden and asked the maid lazily, "Where's young master?" He went out to play with madam. You should be back by now, right? Yes. The maid nodded softly. Chang Gui frowned as he looked at the sky. The sunset had dyed the garden a rosy color. His grandson and daughter-in-law should be home by now. His son died a violent death while adventuring in the martial arts world. The Chang family only had his grandson as their only child. This only child was his lifeblood. His daughter-in-law was quite obedient and tried her best to take care of his grandson. She would come home early every day when he went out to play. Just then, hurried footsteps were heard. A beautiful young woman rushed in. She was dressed in a brocade gown, and her footsteps were strong. She obviously knew martial arts. Her face was pale, and she looked anxious. Her eyes were misty and looked like they were about to drip. "Xiao Yin, what happened?" Chang Gui frowned and stood up. "Father," Xiao Yin shouted. An heir was kidnapped. Kidnapped? Chang Gui's expression changed. How many people? How did it get snatched? Chang heir, Chang San, and an heir were on our way back when we were ambushed and knocked unconscious in an alley. When we woke up, an heir was already gone. Xiao Yun gritted her teeth and said hatefully, "We didn't even see who did it. Their martial arts were too strong." "A grandmaster? It must be the grandmaster," Xiao Yun quickly said. "Father, quickly send someone to look for him. I'm worried that if we delay for too long." An heir, Chang Gui, was so angry that his whole body was trembling. It was his lifeblood. Who would be so bold as to provoke him? How lawless! Even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground, he would find these thieves and take back his grandson. "Guards!" Chang Gui yelled. "Master!" An old servant stepped forward and cupped his fists. The old servant was more than 10 years older than Chang Gui. Although his eyebrows and beard were all white, he was full of vigor. His eyes were like cold lightning, and his killing intent was dense. "Changda, pass down my order. Close the city gates and search every house. Chang Gue grunted. Yes. The old servant Chang decupped his fists and replied, But master, I'm afraid they're already outside the city. Xiao Yin quickly said, They might have run out of the city. Search the city first. Chang Gue scoffed with a gloomy face. Yes. Chanda responded and glided out. Xiao Yun sat by the stone table and started sobbing. Chang Gui's face was gloomy. He did not move as he thought about who would kidnap his grandson. After a while, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought about Chu Li. Back then, Chu Li had asked who was the person he cared about the most among his relatives. Then, he changed the topic and only mentioned that one sentence. Thinking about it now, there was a deep meaning behind it. He had already harbored evil intentions back then and wanted to do this. When he thought about this, he said, Chang Er. Yes, master. A middle-aged man glided over and gave a fist salute. Get Chu Li here. Yes. Chu Li soon appeared in the main hall of the town defense prefecture. He was dressed in green, upright, and full of heroic spirit. After he entered, Chang Gue sat in the armchair in the middle of the hall. He stared at him with sharp eyes and did not say a word. The main hall was shrouded in silence. The atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive. Seeing that he did not speak, Chu Li casually sat in the armchair and broke the silence. Is there anything I can help you with, Sir Mayor? You did it, right, Chu Li? Chang Gue retracted his sharp gaze and opened his fan with a swoosh. He asked with a smile. It was already late autumn. It was not a suitable season for him to fan. Chu Li said, What do you mean, Sir Mayor? I really don't understand. You kidnapped my grandson, didn't you? Chang Gue laughed. You're indeed the famous Chu Li. You're so daring to do such a thing as soon as you enter the city. You're not brave enough to cross the river. He smiled as if he was joking. He did not show any anxiety and did not seem to care about his grandson. Chu Li said, I don't understand what Sir Mayor is saying anymore. Sir Mayor's grandson was kidnapped? No wonder the city is in a mess. Chu Li, you don't have to play dumb. Chang Gue shook his head. You just want to change an errand. Sure, I'll change it for you. What errand does Sir Mayor want from me? How about an idle errand in the town defense prefecture? Chang Gue said. You don't have to come over. Thank you, Sir Mayor. Chu Li fist saluted. Chang Gue smiled and said, Can you hand over my grandson now? I really didn't kidnap Sir Mayor's grandson. Chu Li shook his head. How can I do such an illegal thing? Chang Gue frowned. He still had a smile on his face, but his gaze was cold. Chu Li sighed. Sir Mayor might have made a mistake. My grandson is still in the residence, but he thought he was kidnapped. Chang Gue frowned. He raised his voice. Guards. Chang Er glided in. Go and look for young master's room. Chang Gue ordered. Yes. Chang Er glided out. Soon, Chang Er rushed in like a gust of wind. Master, young master is sleeping on the bed. He's awake. There's no problem. Good. Chang Gue waved his hand and let out a sigh of relief. Chu Li smiled. Seems like Sir Mayor has made a mistake. I wonder if this errand is still mine? Chang Gui's smile faded. His round face was covered with a layer of frost as he stared coldly at Chu Li. He wanted to punch Chu Li to death. Touching his grandson was equivalent to touching his reverse scale. How could he live if something happened to his grandson? He would not even have someone to send him off. How could he face his ancestors after he died? This Chu Li deserved to die. He could not be forgiven. Chu Li grinned at him. Chang Gue said coldly, You could go back and wait. Chu Li laughed. Sir Mayor, you've changed too quickly. Chang Gue said coldly, I'll kill you with one slap. At most, I'll retire and return to my hometown. Chu Li shook his head and fist saluted. If that's the case, I'll take my leave. Scram. Chang Gue slammed the armrest of his chair. You're not allowed to take another step into the town defense prefecture. Chu Li shook his head calmly and turned to leave. Bang! Chang Gue slammed his palm on the table and it broke into pieces. He glared at Chu Li's back and gritted his teeth. He had a strong urge to kill Chu Li and get rid of this scourge. His rationality stopped him. Chu Li was a person from the High Duke's public house. It would be fine if he used his authority to bully him and no one would say anything. Instead, They would praise him for his courage. However, if he killed Chu Li, there would be endless trouble. The High Duke's public house would not let him go. Changda, he shouted, all protectors in the residence are to protect an heir. An heir is not allowed to go out for the next few days. Yes, old servant Changda answered. Chang Gui gritted his teeth, and his eyes were spitting fire. How dare he play this game with him? He wanted to see who would win. This was his territory. He took a deep breath and said, send the secret guards to deal with Chu Li. Break his limbs. Chapter 3794. P.S. Update complete. Chu Li returned to the small courtyard of the inn as dusk arrived and the lanterns were lit. Xiao Qi, Lu Yurong, and Fa Yuan were waiting. When they saw him return safely, they smiled at him. Did you change your job? Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. It's not that easy. This mayor won't give up until he hits a brick wall. Looks like I'll have to do it again. Lu Yurong smiled. Remember, I owe him another favor. Chu Li said, forget it. I don't dare to use you. Oh. Lu Yurong glanced at him. Are you going to let Third Lady do it alone? Third Lady and I work together quite well. Isn't that right, Third Lady? Xiao Qi ignored her provocation and asked calmly. Chu Li, what do you want to do? Chu Li smiled. You don't have to worry about this. I'll take care of it. Lu Yurong looked at him curiously. He must be on high alert now. It's impossible to kidnap that little guy without him knowing. The protectors in the town defense prefecture are weak. I suggest we just barge in and teach him a lesson. Otherwise, he'll be too arrogant and use you as a ladder. Xiao Qi nodded. She also thought that this was a good idea, using force to break through tricks. No matter how many tricks he had, it would be futile if he was not strong enough. As long as Chang Gui was aware of this, he would not provoke Chu Li and humiliate him. She hated Chang Gui and saw through his evil intentions. She wanted to teach him a lesson and let him know that some people could not be humiliated or used. Fa Yuan said, I'll do it. Even if Chu Li's martial arts was crippled, he was still a master who was on par or even better than him. He could not bear to see Chu Li being humiliated. Chu Li smiled. This time, you don't have to do anything. Using force won't help much. What do you want? Lu Yurong scoffed. So secretive. Let me keep you in suspense. Just wait for the news tomorrow. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and shook his head. The morning sun was still shining, but it was still dark. There was only a ray of light in the sky. Chang Gui's grandson, Chang In, was a cute little boy who was sleeping soundly on the bed. His mother, Xiao Yun, held him in her arms. She was afraid of losing him, so she hugged him tightly, afraid that the child would be gone if she let go. There are 4 grandmasters guarding the door, and it's a house. Did someone come in last night? Yes. Xiao Yun nodded vigorously. Chang Gui walked to the table and picked up the silver bracelet. Underneath the bracelet was a flower petal, dripping with dew. His expression grew darker. Chu Li, father, did Chu Li do it? Xiao Yun asked. Chang Gui waved his hand. Don't worry about it. Don't bring her out today. Yes. Xiao Yun nodded vigorously. Even if he wanted her to bring her out to play, she wouldn't go. It was too dangerous outside. Who knew if she would be able to bring her back safely the next time she made a move? Chang Gui came to the side of the bed and touched Chang In's head. Grandpa, Enner wants to ride a horse. Chang In stretched out his hands. Chang Gui chuckled and said, after we finish eating, Grandpa will take her to ride a horse, okay? Okay. Chang In nodded obediently. Chang Gui patted his head happily and left the house. He sat in the main hall with a gloomy expression. He stroked his beard and furrowed his brows. Changda whispered, Master, are we going to deal with Chu Li? Forget it. Chang Gui scoffed. It's no wonder he's so famous. He does have some strange abilities. Go and inform him that he's been transferred to the town defense prefecture. There's no need for him to come. Yes. Changda responded and asked softly, are we going to let him go? We'll deal with him after his companions leave. Chang Gui sneered. I don't believe I can't deal with someone who doesn't know martial arts. Yes. Changda laughed. Master is wise. A man can advance and retreat at the same time. Stop flattering me. Hurry and inform him. Chang Gui scoffed. Chang de Fist saluted and left. Chu Li Fist saluted as he watched Chang to leave the courtyard. Lu Yurong looked at him in shock. However, Shao Qi knew that he had used a divine power. His limb of God could reach the little boy's house in an instant. He put down the silver bracelet and disappeared without a trace. It was shocking enough. Since he could put down the silver bracelet without a trace, it would be easy for him to put down other things. He could even kill someone. This would make Chang Gui understand that his grandson's life was in Chu Li's hands. Lu Yurong smiled. It's a pity we didn't get to see the show. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. At least he managed to save his face. Fa Yuan felt uncomfortable when he imagined Chu Li sweeping the streets. Chu Li said, "He's just staying put for now. Once you leave, he'll play tricks again. Next time, we must teach him a lesson so he won't dare to do anything bad again. Then we'll leave today. Let him make his move." Lu Yurong smiled. She turned to look at Shao Qi. "What about Third Lady Shao?" Shao Qi replied, "I'll leave in a few days." "Oh, you're together already?" Lu Yurong smiled faintly. "Third Lady Shao, aren't you being too unreserved? No matter what, you're still the third lady of the High Duke's public house. You're as pure as ice and as clean as jade." Chu Li snapped, "Don't talk so much." Lu Yurong said, "Chu Li, this is a blessing in disguise. You took advantage of Third Lady Zhao's kindness and sympathy to make her stay." Chu Li scoffed. "Do you want to stay too? Do you dare to make me stay?" Lu Yurong chuckled and raised her eyebrows flirtatiously. Shao Qi frowned at her. Chu Li quickly waved his hand. "Have a safe trip. I won't send you off." Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. "Then we'll bid farewell. We'll visit you again in a few days. Go, go." Chu Li waved his hand. Chapter 3795. After the two left, only Chu Li and Shao Qi were left in the courtyard. Shao Qi glanced at him. Chu Li smiled. "Lady Shao, you should leave too. I can handle it alone. What if someone attacks you? How are you going to deal with it? You can't just run away." Shao Qi said. Chu Li nodded. "That's true. Thank you, Lady Shao. I'll buy 2 residences tomorrow." Shao Qi said, "One for each of us." Chu Li looked at her helplessly. Shao Qi said, "We still have to keep our distance. We can't stay in the same house." Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. "Lady Shao, is your regal sword scripture strong enough?" It seemed like Shao Qi had seen through his intentions. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Time breeds affection. If the two of them stayed alone in this small town for a long time, it would be easy for them to keep their guard up. "Yes," Shao Qi said, "I'll be in isolated cultivation soon." Chu Li said, "That's good too. One house would be used as a retreat place, and the other house would be used for daily use," he thought to himself. Shao Qi went with him to the broker house in the town and found 2 connected residences. They were 2 old residences by the river in the east of the town. There was moss on the stone steps and grass grew between the blue stones in the courtyard. Chu Li and Shao Qi were satisfied. There was a clear river as soon as they stepped out of the door. They could wash clothes by the river and sail in the river. The willows by the river were graceful and swaying with the wind like fog or smoke. Behind the house was a shop, which they bought along with the shop. The shop used to sell grain, but it was now closed. The shop was located on the side of the central street and was facing the bustling street. Although this small city was not as prosperous as the Immortals' capital, it was not inferior to Qinyan City. In fact, it was even better than Qinyan City. After all, most of the people who were sent here were nobles. Their pockets were full of money, and they spent lavishly. Therefore, they were able to attract skilled craftsmen from all over the world to come here. There were many people with special talents in this small city. Chu Li did not plan to open a shop. He was not short of money and did not want to be distracted by these mundane things. Money would always bring trouble. There was no one who could earn money without putting in effort. There would always be various things to deal with. He planned to study the white tiger power carefully. In the evening, as the sun was setting, The two of them left their newly bought residence to have dinner. As the third lady of the High Duke's public house, how could Xiao Qi cook? The two of them went to a small town's restaurant for dinner. The two of them sat at a table by the window, chatting as they ate. Will we just let go? Xiao Qi took a sip of the wine. She had already taken off her white veil, revealing her pure and peerlessly beautiful appearance, which attracted the prying gazes of the surrounding people. Xiao Qi did not care at all. She just stared at Chu Li with a frown. If we force him to admit defeat, there will be hidden dangers. I'm just afraid that he will plot against us at the crucial moment. It's not the right time yet. Chu Li smiled. Let's slow down and deal with him slowly. If we don't crush him to death, he'll jump out sooner or later. It's good that you understand. Xiao Qi was finally relieved. She was afraid that Chu Li would not care about Chang Gui at all. Would it not mean that these despicable people would often spoil things, especially when Chu Li was at such a crucial moment? If Chang Gui were to risk offending him and participate in the book, the consequences would be unpredictable. Chu Li was suddenly stunned. He called out, "Commander Su." The middle-aged man who was slowly walking up the stairs looked up and smiled when he saw Chu Li. It was Su Huanda. He was dressed in a grayish-brown robe and looked like he was in dire straits. Chu Li stood up and gave a fist salute. Su Huanda approached him and sighed. I didn't expect us to be brothers in hardship. You're here too. I'm here to accompany Commander Su. Chu Li smiled. Xiao Qi only nodded slightly without saying much. Su Huanda asked, why were you banished here? Chu Li glanced around and smiled. I told King Ping who the mastermind was. Su Huanda's expression changed. He pondered for a moment and shook his head. Why bother? You're asking for trouble. It can't be helped. I can't change my temper, Chu Li said. Commander Su can be reinstated, right? It'll be difficult. Su Huanda shook his head. The position has been taken. He's favored by the Emperor, so the Emperor will trust him more and won't immediately remove his position as deputy commander. As for me, the Emperor doesn't mind if I stay a few more years. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. Then how did you get injured, Commander Su? He could tell at a glance that Su Huanda was heavily injured, but he pretended to be fine on the outside. There was a trace of weak inner strength circulating in his internal organs. It was constantly eroding his internal organs, and his body was constantly deteriorating. At this rate, he would probably be bedridden in less than 2 days. Su Huanda smiled bitterly. He had always kept a sullen face in the secret guardian's hall as if he was wearing an iron mask. He had no other expression and was always calm and collected as if he was numb and indifferent. Now he sighed. The secret guardian's hall has offended too many people. Now that I'm here, I'm being punished. How dare they? Chu Li's expression darkened. Su Huanda said, forget it. They're either from the outer mausoleum or the inner mausoleum. They're unscrupulous. You can't do anything to them. Besides, your martial arts has been crippled. Chu Li nodded slowly. All right, you have to be careful. You're from the secret guardian's hall too, Su Huanda said. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to move around in the town. It's okay. I'm not going on an errand. Chu Li smiled. The Royal Highnesses pleaded for me, and I got an errand. I don't have to go out, and I can just cultivate my own home. I'm afraid that disaster will fall from the sky while you're at home. Su Huanda shook his head and smiled. I'm not that lucky. I don't dare to cripple my martial arts like you. He knew that he could not enter the Imperial Mausoleum if his martial arts were crippled. If he could live outside the town, it would be easier for the Emperor to summon him back. However, his identity determined that he could not take this path. If he did not have martial arts, the Emperor would not use him, and it would be impossible for him to summon him back to Fairy's capital. Moreover, he understood his situation. He knew that he would not have a good time in the Imperial Mausoleum. He would be ostracized and suppressed. He would have no one to rely on. Without his martial arts, he would be like a fish on the chopping block. It would be miserable. Chu Li nodded and smiled. If I don't enter the outer mausoleum, there won't be so many grudges, right? The people from the outer mausoleum can come out. Su Huanda shook his head. They'll definitely cause you trouble. I'm afraid you won't be able to hide. I still have Lady Xiao to protect me. Chu Li smiled. Su Huanda shook his head. According to the rules of adjacent town, Non-family members can only stay here for a maximum of 7 days. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Once Lady Xiao leaves after 7 days, who will protect you? Su Huanda asked. Only family members? Chu Li frowned. Xiao Qi frowned too. Su Huanda said, if Lady Xiao is your wife, she can stay. However, Lady Xiao isn't. She can only leave after 7 days. No one can violate this rule. What other relationships can I stay in? Xiao Qi asked. Su Huanda said, siblings can only be biological relatives. Those who are not related by blood can only be husband and wife. Chu Li could not help but laugh. Looks like I'll have to live alone. Su Huanda said, now that your martial arts have been crippled, don't think that they'll let you go according to the rules of the martial arts world. They'll make things worse. Chapter 3796. Chu Li smiled. Don't worry about it. I'll take it 1 day at a time. Maybe the Emperor will summon me back in 7 days. Impossible. Su Huanda said, I know the Emperor's temper. Even if he's wrong, he'll be wrong to the end. He won't give up halfway and won't allow his dignity to be damaged. He'll regret it even if he's wrong. If that's the case, will he stay here forever? Xiao Qi asked with a frown. Su Huanda said, even if someone pleads for him, with the Emperor's temper, he won't change his mind for 1.5 years. Fortunately, it's only 1.5 years. Chu Li smiled. If he doesn't change his mind, I'll really have to stay here. His desire to become an enlightened master was getting more and more urgent. He was suppressed everywhere and could not move freely. He felt that he was ashamed of his rebirth. Su Huanda said, of course. Chu Li, I noticed some dangerous signs in your thoughts. You're being disrespectful to the Emperor. If I'm this respectful, it'll be difficult for me to become an enlightened master. Chu Li shook his head. Chu Li, although you're a genius, and even better than Fa Yuan from the Tempest Temple, it'll be extremely difficult for you to become an enlightened master. It's best to give up on this idea, or you'll be asking for trouble. Su Huanda shook his head and stood up. Let's go. We'll find a quiet place. Chu Li nodded. Let's go to my new residence. My place. Su Huanda shook his head. Chu Li agreed and followed Su Huanda down the restaurant. After a few turns, they entered a narrow alley and arrived at an ordinary house. The house here was very different from the one Chu Li bought. It was narrow and low. Commander Su? Chu Li looked around. Su Huanda shook his head. I can pay, but it's not necessary. Moreover, it's not a good idea. It shouldn't be difficult to buy a better residence, right? A good residence is too eye-catching. Without enough power, you won't be able to protect it. Su Huanda shook his head. Even if you buy it, it'll be occupied. Is the security in the city so bad? Chu Li frowned. Su Huanda said, there's no problem on the surface, but don't forget that there are martial arts figures here. Although the mayor is a master, he can't control every corner of the city. The black and the white have always been this way. Then who has the final say underground? Chu Li asked. Su Huanda pushed open the door and entered. There was only a flower bed in the small courtyard inside. Beside the flower bed was a wooden table. It had been weathered by the wind and rain, mottled and worn out. The three of them sat at the wooden table. Su Huanda brewed some tea and sighed. The underground master was originally a Chiliarch. His surname was Su, and his given name was Guangyang. He was once a general of the southern border, and he often fought against the Zheng dynasty. Later on, he was punished and sent here. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Su Huanda continued. This Su Guangyang was also sent here after his martial arts were crippled, just like you. However, his martial arts were crippled by the imperial court and then thrown here. I didn't expect him to recover his martial arts so quickly and unite his 4 subordinates to become the boss in the city. No one dares to offend him. Does His Majesty know? I know. Interesting. Chu Li shook his head. He was brought down by the Secret Guardians Hall back then. Su Huanda shook his head. He hates the Secret Guardians Hall to the core. Xiao Qi frowned even more. Then Commander Su can't defeat him? Chu Li asked. Su Huanda shook his head. His cultivation level is extremely high. I'm no match for him. Moreover, his 4 subordinates are top-notch masters. Chu Li said, "Looks like the days from now on won't be peaceful. The underworld exists everywhere. This place is much more dangerous than the fairy's capital." Su Huanda shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Back then, I only did things on impulse. I was confident that I had the Emperor's protection, so I offended people. I didn't expect this day to come." He sighed again. Fate was unpredictable. He never thought that he would have such a day. He could not hide his disappointment. Initially, he thought that he would be valued by the Emperor if he stayed true to his heart. He did not expect the Emperor to abandon him in a flash. He was in such a difficult situation. No matter how strong his martial arts was, he could only fight alone. He was far from Su Guangyang's group. Chu Li smiled. "Commander Su, you don't have to worry after today. With Lady Co around, dealing with those guys will be a piece of cake." Co Chi glared at him. Su Huanda smiled bitterly. No matter how powerful Lady Co is, she can only stay for 7 days. Besides, she might not be able to defeat Su Guangyang. "I'll just try," Chu Li said. "Lady Co, what do you think?" Co Chi nodded. Chu Li and Su Huanda then talked about the situation in the town and Su Huanda's assignment. Su Huanda's assignment was to patrol the outer mausoleum, so he was quite free. However, the people from the outer mausoleum could not stay in the mausoleum. They had to enter the imperial mausoleum on a regular basis and return to live in the town when the time was up. Only the people from the inner mausoleum could live in the mausoleum. "The protectors from the inner mausoleum can enter the town too," Su Huanda said. "Those guys are all top-notch masters. It's best not to offend them. They stay here all their lives and are fearless. Many of them have mental problems and are like lunatics." Chu Li nodded slowly. Co Chi sat aside and listened without saying a word. When the sky turned dark, Chu Li and Co Chi left the Su residence. Before they left, Chu Li gave Su Huanda a spirit pill to help him recover from his injuries. The two strolled along the river. The weeping willow swayed gently with a night breeze. Strings of lanterns were hung on both sides of the river, illuminating the houses on both sides. The river swayed gently and sparkled. On the river, a small boat drifted with the waves like a leaf on the river. Some scholars sat in the boat and recited poems while the sound of bamboo fluttered from the boat. The deputy commander of the Secret Guardians Hall has fallen to such a state. Co Chi shook her head. Chu Li said, "It's his fault for being abandoned by the Emperor." Co Chi looked at him with her clear eyes. Chu Li smiled. "Lady Co, don't worry. I want an up like this. If I leave, you won't be able to use your martial arts. If you're surrounded, how will you escape? Divine power is a big secret. It can't be leaked. It's nothing to be beaten up," Chu Li said. Co Chi shook her head and bit her lower lip. Small boats drifted along the river. A melodious song could be heard. The two walked side by the river. They could hear the sound of their footsteps. Under the light of the lanterns, Co Chi's face was faintly discernible. The two unknowingly walked back to the residence and suddenly stopped. The main door was shattered on the ground as if it was slashed by a knife. The two walked in and saw that the parterre in the front yard was in a mess. Broken flowers and leaves were everywhere. It was completely destroyed. The stone table next to the parterre was shattered and turned into a pile of stones. The stone stool was overturned and there were knife marks everywhere. It could no longer be used. Chu Li took a deep breath and scoffed. "Looks like we don't have to go to them. They came to us first." Co Chi's bright eyes flashed coldly. She said calmly, "Their skills are indeed extraordinary." Through these knife and palm marks, she speculated that these people's cultivation level was indeed grandmasters. Moreover, their cultivation level was high. The two went back into the house. All the furniture was torn apart. Not a single one was intact. The bed was split into several pieces. The bedding was torn. Pieces of silk and cotton fluttered on the ground like snow. "Ruthless," Chu Li said coldly. Co Chi said, "He deliberately provoked us, right?" Chapter 3797. P.S. Update complete. I'm really sorry. I'm not in the best condition. I need to adjust. The two of them went to the residence next door. It was also completely destroyed. Not a single part of it was intact. The entire residence was uninhabitable. Chu Li and Xiao Qi had no choice but to find an inn to stay for the night. The next morning, they returned to the residence. As soon as they entered the door, they saw three middle-aged men sitting on the steps of the main hall. They were waiting impatiently with flowers in their hands. In front of each of them was a pile of broken petals. The man sitting in the middle had thick eyebrows and big eyes. When his eyes opened and closed, they emitted a cold glint that was fierce and terrifying. Just by looking at the dense, baleful aura around him, one could tell that he had been on the battlefield and had killed many people. The middle-aged men on both sides had mediocre appearances that were easily forgotten. They were tall and sturdy, and they were both grandmasters. They had already stood up and were staring at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi was dressed in a white tunic with a white veil covering her face. However, her temperament was like that of fairy. Her cold eyes looked at them calmly, as if she was an otherworldly fairy. They could not help but stare at her. "Who are you?" Chu Li asked. "You're Chu Li?" The middle-aged man said. "I'm Jin Wu." Chu Li nodded. "I'm Chu Li. What can I do for you?" Chu Li, the head chief of King An's imperial residence? Jin Wu asked. Chu Li nodded. Jin Wu said coldly. "The centurion of the secret guardians hall?" Chu Li pointed at his surroundings. "Did you guys do this?" Jin Wu answered. "Yes." Chu Li turned to look at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi moved the long sword at her waist, and a sword light flashed. It was so fast that the sword could not be seen clearly. Jin Wu threw a punch, but the tip of the sword had already pierced through his dantian. His inner energy gushed out of his dantian like a flood, and the energy in his fist disappeared. The three of them held their stomachs and stared at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi had been accumulating her energy for this moment. She wanted to vent her frustrations from last night. She gently shook the long sword and returned it to its sheath. The white veil covered her face, so her face could not be seen. Her eyes were still cold like a white jade statue, standing beside Chu Li. Chu Li nodded. "Now we can talk nicely. Tell me, why did you destroy our residence?" Jin Wu glared at Chu Li viciously. He bit his lip so hard that it bled. Fine, fine," Chu Li said faintly. "It seems like you don't want to talk about it. Then don't. Get lost, or else I'll break your limbs and throw you out." "You?" Jin Wu glared at him. "This is adjacent town, not Fairy's capital. So what if it's adjacent town? It's not your place to be tyrannical." Chu Li said coldly. "If you have the guts, ask Huang Feiyun to come." The underground master of adjacent city was Huang Feiyun. This Jin Wu was one of the four great Vajras. Fine, fine." Jin Wu gritted his teeth. "I want to see what will happen to you." Chu Li waved his hand. "Get lost." Jin Wu and the other two middle-aged men staggered out. Chu Li scoffed, turned his head and smiled. "My lady, you did a great job." Xiao Qi replied. "I might not be able to defeat Huang Feiyun." Chu Li laughed. "My lady, if you can't defeat Huang Feiyun, then you'll have wasted your time cultivating the regal sword scripture." Xiao Qi shook her head. "You can't underestimate the heroes of the world. He must have his own uniqueness to be able to dominate adjacent town." "Then let's go and take a look," Chu Li muttered. Xiao Qi nodded. She placed her hand on Chu Li's shoulder and glided along with him. Their speed was not fast, so they followed Jin Wu and the other two from afar. Without their martial arts, they had lost their keen senses. In their daze, they did not notice Chu Li and Xiao Qi. Chu Li and Xiao Qi chatted as they stared at them. "How far do you want to go?" Xiao Qi asked. "To replace them," Chu Li replied. "It'll be very difficult." Xiao Qi said softly, "Your identity is inherently disadvantageous. The Secret Guardians Hall is unpopular and everyone has the right to kill you. Besides, you're from the High Duke's public house, so the people might not be convinced. If they're not convinced, then we'll beat them into submission." Chu Li scoffed. "Otherwise, we won't be able to live peacefully and cultivate our martial arts." "That's true." Xiao Qi nodded. "If they cannot gain a foothold when they first arrived, there would be endless troubles. Chu Li's identity attracted too much hatred, so if they wanted to live peacefully, they had to subdue the people around them. Jin Wu and the other two stumbled into a restaurant and went up to the third floor, where a young man stood. The young man wore a sapphire blue robe and was sitting at a table by the window in the restaurant where Chu Li and Shao Qi had their meal last night. He held a glass of wine and sipped it as he pondered with a serious expression. He was the only one on the spacious floor. It was empty, but the first and second floors were bustling. Boss Huang, Jin Wu, and the two middle-aged men went forward and fist saluted with a gloomy expression. "Help us." Huang Feiyun turned his head and glanced at the three of them. "What now? Our martial arts have been crippled by Chu Li." Jin Wu gritted his teeth. "We can only ask Boss Huang to help us." "Third Lady Shao," Huang Feiyun asked. "Chu Li's martial arts have been crippled, so he could not fight. Shao Qi was the only one who could do it." "Yes," Jin Wu scoffed. "Third Lady Zhao's martial arts are more powerful than the rumors say. She defeated us in one move." That's how Third Lady Shao should be." Huang Feiyun nodded and smiled. "I've admired such a powerful beauty for a long time. Now that she's finally here in adjacent town, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "Boss Huang," Jin Wu yelled in dissatisfaction. Then, he remembered that he was no longer the valiant general he used to be. He had lost his martial arts and was now a cripple. "Jin Wu, what do you think would happen if she becomes my wife?" Huang Feiyun smiled. "I've been fighting on the battlefield for the past 30 years. Now that I've come to adjacent town, I'm not interested in those ordinary women. Now, I've finally met such a wonderful person. Boss Huang, although you've been a Chiliarch, Third Lady Shao must have high standards. I'm afraid she won't like you." Jin Wu quickly said. "It's okay if she doesn't like me." Huang Feiyun shook his head. "Let's get married first. What's done can't be undone. She's the third lady of the High Duke's public house." Jin Wu said. "If she offends the High Duke's public house, she won't even know how she'll die. We're already a family. Why would she go against me?" Huang Feiyun chuckled. "As long as she's connected to the High Duke's public house, wouldn't it be a piece of cake to leave this damned place? If it's that easy, Chu Li wouldn't have come here," Jin Wu quickly said. Huang Feiyun shook his head. "Chu Li's different. He's offended the emperor and nobody can save him. Not even the High Duke's public house. As long as I kill him, Third Lady Shao will belong to me. Ha ha." He laughed and clenched his fists. "That's why Chu Li must die. But he's known to the emperor. Who knows if the emperor will put him in an important position." Jin Wu hesitated. He was filled with hatred. Of course, he could not wait for Chu Li and Shao Qi to die. Only Chu Li's death would not be enough. Shao Qi should die with him. "You little brat." Huang Feiyun pointed at him. "You're so narrow-minded. Don't worry, I'll find a way to get you some spirit pills to help you recover your martial arts." "Really?" Jin was overjoyed. Huang Feiyun said, "Although it won't be easy, it's not impossible. If I can become the son-in-law of the High Duke's public house, I'll be more confident." "Then hurry up and kill Chu Li," Jin Wu said. Chapter 3798. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly laughed out loud. "I'm sure Third Lady Shao has arrived?" Jin Wu was stunned. His face darkened as he quickly turned to look, but there was no one around. "Big Boss Huang? Don't scare me." He turned around and smiled. "You idiot. How dare you swagger back after crippling your martial arts? With Third Lady Zhao's intelligence, how can she not know that she can find me by following him? She doesn't have the guts, does she?" Huang Feiyun shook his head. "Third Lady Shao is a heroine, so she has the guts. Am I right, Third Lady Shao?" The surroundings were empty. No one could be seen. Huang Feiyun chuckled. "Third Lady Shao, since you're here, why don't you show yourself and let me have a look?" Still, no one answered. Huang Feiyun laughed out loud. It said that knowing someone by reputation is not as good as seeing them in person. "I've always admired your beauty, so let me fulfill my wish today. I'll spare Chu Li's life." Still, no one answered. Jin Wu said, "Big Boss Huang, Third Lady Shao might dare to come and check if she's alone, but she has a cripple to take care of. What do you know? Huang Feiyun glared at him. Jin Wu shrunk his neck. Big Boss Huang's gaze was not right. Huang Feiyun smiled. Since Third Lady Xiao is reluctant to meet me, I'll have to take the initiative. Adjacent town is so small, so it'll be easy to meet her. Am I right, Third Lady Xiao? Chu Li's laughter suddenly rang out. There's really someone so daring. No wonder he was sent here. In a flash, Chu Li and Xiao Qi appeared on the third floor and stood in front of the four people. Huang Feiyun's expression did not change. He was still smiling, but he was shocked. He did not sense them approaching. Their sudden appearance was worthy of their excellent light body technique. This was Chu Li's god's limbs, but it looked like Xiao Qi's light body technique. Huang Feiyun stared at Xiao Qi greedily without blinking. Xiao Qi's face was covered with a white veil, revealing only her eyes. They were clear and cold like autumn water, which intoxicated him. He wanted to hold her in his arms and have her eyes forever. Xiao Qi's bright eyes were calm as she looked on indifferently. She had seen this kind of greedy and intense gaze many times. Compared to the others, Huang Feiyun was more direct, bolder, and more intense, but he could not disturb her. Chu Li could shake her state of mind, but the others could not. It was like a gentle breeze that brushed past her face. Chu Li said, Huang Feiyun, you really aren't suited to be a centurion. An incompetent general will exhaust an entire army. You'll only let your soldiers die in vain. Shut up, you trash. Huang Feiyun turned his head abruptly and glared at Chu Li fiercely. He roared like a ferocious wolf, pouncing on its prey. Chu Li smiled nonchalantly. There are still 6 masters lying in ambush, right? You still want to pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. Let's call them up at the same time so that we can deal with them at once. Huang Feiyun's face darkened, and he said coldly, You do have some skills. I have underestimated you. I've overestimated you. Chu Li shook his head and said, You don't know how to hide your desires. You're driven by your instincts. You're nothing. What a joke, hee. Huang Feiyun licked his lips, and his expression became even more ferocious and terrifying. His murderous aura swept toward Chu Li. Just a little trick, and you fell into the trap obediently. How dare you talk big? Just a little trick? Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Why do you have to go through so much trouble? First, you threw stones to test our strength, but in the end, you lost your men. If all of you had laid an ambush in our residence and attacked us together, we would have been crippled no matter how strong we were. He was trying to sow discord and attack Huang Feiyun. It was indeed important to throw stones to test the waters. Otherwise, if they rashly attacked without knowing their strength, it was very likely that they would be wiped out. The merciful did not command soldiers. This was the way of using troops. No matter how much one loved one's soldiers, once they were on a battlefield, one would have to treat them like chess pieces. Huang Feiyun had asked Jin Wu and the others to test the waters. First, he wanted to find out Chu Li and Xiao Qi's strength and infuriate them so that they would lose their minds. Secondly, he wanted to make Chu Li and Xiao Qi think that their masters were the same as Jin Wu and the other two. In reality, Jin Wu and the other two's martial arts were the weakest. The other 6 were far better than Jin Wu. Huang Feiyun was arrogant, but he was also quite scheming. After all, he had been through the battlefield. Nonetheless, in the face of strength, all of these were like castles in the air. They could not withstand a single blow. Xiao Qi's regal sword scripture was rare in the world, and she was superior to them. Huang Feiyun chuckled coldly. Don't be so stubborn. I like to see what you're capable of. Third Lady Xiao, please excuse me. Come out, he shouted. 6 silhouettes floated down like cotton. 4 of them entered through the window, while 2 of them floated up from the staircase. They sealed off the path from top to bottom and formed an encirclement. 4 old men and 2 middle-aged men stared coldly at Xiao Qi. Chu Li said, I've gathered quite a number of masters. These are all masters from our military. Huang Feiyun said proudly, Third Lady Xiao, please advise us. Go. He waved his hand, and the 6 of them pounced forward to attack Chu Li. Chu Li took a step to the side and cleverly avoided 4 swords, 1 fist force, and one palm energy. Huang Feiyun frowned. This step seemed like a coincidence, and he easily dodged them, but it was ingenious. Huang Feiyun could not use this step, so it was obvious that Head Chief Chu had an excellent step technique. He must force him to reveal it. Xiao Qi's sword flashed like lightning. Instead of saving Chu Li, she took a step to the side and pierced an old man's chest with ease. Huang Feiyun's expression changed slightly. His eyes flickered as he looked between Chu Li and Xiao Qi before he finally pounced on Xiao Qi. Chu Li was not a threat. Xiao Qi's swordsmanship was far stronger than the rumors said. Her sword was swift, and her body movement technique was swift. It was impossible to defend against her. Huang Feiyun unsheathed the long blade at his waist and swung it at Xiao Qi. It was fast and ruthless. Chu Li gently swung his arm. TSS. A cold light flashed, and a whistling sound was heard. An old man turned his head and stared at Chu Li in disbelief. A flying blade pierced through his back and exited his chest, shooting toward another middle-aged master. While the middle-aged master was dodging, Xiao Qi slipped and avoided Huang Feiyun's blade force. She then appeared in front of the middle-aged master and pierced his dantian with her sword, crippling his martial arts. Damn it! Huang Feiyun roared. Not only did he fail to suppress Xiao Qi, but she had also injured two people, and the culprit was Chu Li, who had been crippled of his martial arts. He felt that he had been fooled, and he was furious. Although he was arrogant, he was cautious. After Chu Li appeared, he carefully examined Chu Li and found that he did not have any aura of inner energy on him. There were no signs of a martial artist, and his eyes were dull. How could he suddenly shoot a flying blade? Chu Li smiled and said, "My martial arts recover very quickly too." Damn it! Huang Feiyun turned and pounced at Chu Li. His blade formed a light arc as it fell toward Chu Li. Chu Li took a step to the side and easily dodged it. The combination of the nature restoration manifestation and the omniscient mirror allowed him to predict the direction of the blade. Huang Feiyun gritted his teeth. He did not believe that Chu Li could dodge it. After all, Chu Li was crippled of his martial arts. However, Chu Li easily dodged it. His body was strong now. First, he had the divine light body and the heavenly demon body. Then, he had consumed several wind speed pills and giant spirit pills. Even without inner energy, his speed and strength were similar to that of a grandmaster. Chapter 3799. Huang Feiyun was enraged, and his attacks became faster and faster. Xiao Qi suddenly pointed her finger. Ding! Huang Feiyun's long blade stopped, and the light finger force hit the long blade like a boulder. Chu Li swung his arm the moment Xiao Qi pointed her finger. They moved almost at the same time, as he was very confident in Xiao Qi's martial arts. TSS. A cold light flashed, and the flying blade pierced through Huang Feiyun's right chest without any resistance. Blood spurted out, and it shot into the pillar next to him. Ugh! Huang Feiyun widened his eyes in disbelief. Chu Li smiled. My martial arts has been crippled, but I can still throw two blades. How did it feel? I'll kill you! Huang Feiyun roared in frustration. He did not expect to be defeated by Chu Li, whom he had always looked down on. It was difficult for him to accept. His roar was hoarse and weak, as if all his strength had been taken away by the flying blade. His right chest seemed to be leaking, and he did not even have the strength to speak. If I were you, I'd quickly heal myself. Chu Li took a step back and shook his head. The four masters around Huang Feiyun were also in disbelief. Chu Li's body did not have any inner energy flow, even when he threw the flying blade. It was as if the blade was purely made with his strength, which was unbelievable. While the other four were shaken, Xiao Qi suddenly sped up and crippled the four of them with one sword strike. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction and clapped his hands. It's finally settled. Huang Feiyun, clean up our residence. You have 2 days, or else I won't just cripple your martial arts next time. I'll cripple your limbs too. All right. Huang Feiyun's eyes were bloodshot as he said fiercely. Xiao Qi approached him and pierced his dantian with her sword. You! Huang Feiyun glared at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi glanced at him, but did not say a word. Chu Li said, Huang Feiyun, I heard that your martial arts recovered very quickly. Do you have a secret skill? Huang Feiyun sneered. Why? Do you want to learn? Chu Li nodded. If you hand over the secret skill, I'll spare you. Otherwise, we'll look for you in a few days and cripple your martial arts. We'll see if you can recover faster, or we can cripple you faster. Dream on. Huang Feiyun sneered. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Why bother? Xiao Qi arrived in front of an old man. With a flash of her sword, the old man's left arm hung limply as the tendons in his hand were severed. Ah! The old man roared. Xiao Qi glanced at him. She could see through people's hearts and knew that these fellows weren't good people. They had bullied others and taken advantage of women, so she definitely couldn't let them off so easily. She went to another old man, and with a flash of her sword, the tendon of his left hand was severed again. She then walked toward another old man. Ignoring the old man's cowering, she once again broke the tendons in his left hand. Her footsteps did not stop as she walked towards the last old man. Wait, I'll speak, Huang Feiyun hurriedly said. This move was too vicious. Even if he could keep the secret skill in the end, he would be alienated and become a loner. Moreover, he might not be able to endure it. Seeing how ruthless third Miss Xiao was, she would not be soft-hearted in dealing with him. Chu Li said, A wise man submits to circumstances. Why didn't you say so earlier? Why did you have to make everyone suffer like this? I obtained the secret skill by accident. It's hidden in my house, Huang Feiyun said. Chu Li nodded. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Huang Feiyun scoffed. Let them go first. Otherwise, I won't hand it over even if you kill me. Chu Li shook his head. What's the point of playing these little tricks? Let them report to the people you've secretly trained, right? Not only did Huang Feiyun have Jin Wu and the other 8 masters, but he also had 6 other masters in the dark. He befriended these masters through the secret skill that allowed him to recover his martial arts. They usually had nothing to do with him, nor did they contact him. They would only help during crucial moments. These masters were his backup plan to turn the tables. Usually, his opponents would relax after they had won, giving them an opportunity to take advantage of. Huang Feiyun's heart trembled, but he pretended to be stubborn and sneered. Are you afraid? He seemed to be following Chu Li's words. He was putting on a brave front, but was actually weak inside. Chu Li smiled. I won't cause unnecessary trouble if I can avoid it. These people won't report, right? Huang Feiyun stared at him coldly. He had already given up on the idea of reporting to Chu Li. These 6 martial arts masters could only be used as ambushes. They could only deal a fatal blow when Chu Li let his guard down. Once Chu Li was on his guard, there would be no chance to turn the tables. It would be better for them to wait for their martial arts to recover before gathering together to attack Chu Li. You're a tactful person. Let's go, Chu Li said. Huang Feiyun took a deep breath. All right, I'll admit defeat. You can't kill me anyway. It was an ironclad rule that no one was allowed to kill in adjacent town. Just like how one was not allowed to stay for long, it was an ironclad rule set by the emperor. Anyone who violated this rule would either be sent to the town defense prefecture or the people from the inner and outer mausoleums. Chu Li said, If I learn your secret skill and recover my martial arts as soon as possible, I won't be afraid of you. Huang Feiyun scoffed and frowned. Chu Li was already so powerful without any martial arts. If he could injure Huang Feiyun, how shocking would it be to recover his martial arts? Head Chief Chu Li was famous in Fairy's capital, and it was not a fluke. There were many more masters in Fairy's capital than here, Chu Li said, but I advise you not to play any tricks, or everyone will be in trouble. Let's go. Huang Feiyun scoffed. Xiao Qi grabbed Huang Feiyun with one hand and placed her other hand on Chu Li's shoulder. Then, they glided out of the window as if they were riding on the wind. She could read Huang Feiyun's mind and knew where he lived. They landed in a small and narrow residence. This residence was even more dilapidated than Su Huanda's residence. It was hard to imagine that it belonged to the prestigious underground master, Huang Feiyun. Huang Feiyun usually did not stay here. After entering the residence, Huang Feiyun went into the study and pried open a wooden board. He took out a small box and handed it to Chu Li. This contains the secret skill that I obtained by accident. It can help me recover my martial arts quickly. Chu Li looked at him with a faint smile. Xiao Qi said, "This isn't the real one. Take the real one out." "You're good." Huang Feiyun glanced at them and pointed at the bookshelf. "Move this away." Xiao Qi gently lifted the bookshelf as if it was made of paper and easily moved it away. Huang Feiyun looked at her deeply and sighed. He slowly walked to the wall and knocked on it. Finally, he pulled out a hollow brick and took out a small box for Xiao Qi. "Is it for real this time?" Xiao Qi scoffed. Huang Feiyun smiled bitterly. "If you still don't believe me, I have nothing else to say." At that moment, a black shadow appeared like a ghost and snatched the wooden box. It came and went in an instant and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Hee. Huang Feiyun laughed. Chu Li and Xiao Qi looked at him and did not chase after him. Huang Feiyun looked at them in surprise. "Why aren't you chasing after him? There's no need for that. It's not my secret skill." Chu Li shook his head. "Besides, the secret skill is in your head." Huang Feiyun scoffed. "Aren't you afraid that I'll write it wrong on purpose? P.S. The following is less than 500 words and does not take up the word count. The first White Robe Fight the Landlord tournament in order to thank the readers for their support. The White Robe Fight the Landlord event is hereby held. First place, 3,000 RMB. Second place, 2,000 RMB. Third place, 1,000 RMB. Fourth place, 800 RMB. Fifth place, 600 RMB. Sixth place, 400 RMB. 7th to 10th place, 200 RMB. Those who are not in the top 10, don't be discouraged. 10 lucky prizes will be randomly selected. Those who don't get lucky prizes, don't be discouraged. There's a $1,000 bag waiting for you. Participation requirements. Order all white robes, add group verification, and sign up. Those who know how to play Fight the Landlord will form a group of 3. The first round will be an overall selection. The management will randomly assign 3 people to a group. The winner must take a screenshot and send it to the management. It must be a large picture. Everyone will only have one chance. If you win, you will be eliminated and the first place will be decided. Event time. Mid-Autumn Festival will start at 8 p.m. You can start signing up when the announcement is made. Until 12:30 p.m. on the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival. The prize for this event will be sponsored by the Alliance Leader with a dream in her heart. Thank you, Alliance Leader. P.S. Do you think this is the end of the event? No. 1,000,000 Qidian coins will be released. The group will announce the details. Chapter 3800. Xiao Qi said, "You still have a third secret manual." Huang Feiyun's face darkened. Chu Li said, "Huang Feiyun, you should know that you can't do it again and again. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless." "All right." Huang Feiyun took a deep breath and picked up a poetry book from the table. He passed it to Xiao Qi. "This is the real one." Xiao Qi quickly flipped through it and passed it to Chu Li. Chu Li nodded and smiled in satisfaction. "Thank you, Chili Archwang. We'll meet again. I hope we never meet again." Huang Feiyun scoffed. Chu Li said, "That depends on whether you'll come and provoke us again. The experts in the dark and the experts in the light can fight against us. You can give it a try. Goodbye, I won't see you out." Huang Feiyun said coldly. He felt a chill in his heart. It seemed like he could not hide his thoughts from the two of them. How terrifying. Chu Li said, "I'll take my leave then." Xiao Qi put her hand on his shoulder and disappeared from the study. Huang Feiyun let out a long sigh of relief. He had finally sent off the 2 pests. He frowned and thought about who stole the second secret manual. How dare they steal from the tiger's mouth? Chu Li and Xiao Qi fluttered back to the inn. "Aren't you going after that guy?" Xiao Qi asked softly. Chu Li shook his head. "It's better to let him suffer a little." He had already noticed the middle-aged man lying outside Huang Feiyun's courtyard with his aura concealed. He was also an ambitious man who wanted to learn from Huang Feiyun's rise. Chu Li was happy to have someone restrain Huang Feiyun, so he pretended not to know. "I'm afraid he'll get greedy," Xiao Qi said. It's not too late to teach him a lesson then, Chu Li said. Xiao Qi nodded. Can you cultivate this secret skill? No problem. Chu Li nodded. How long will it take to recover? Xiao Qi asked. She did not know that Chu Li had the life and death scripture and could recover his martial arts at any time. She was not so worried because he had divine power. However, it was different now. The environment was dangerous, so it would be troublesome if his divine power was exposed. Chu Li pondered for a moment and said, a month should be enough. In fact, he was not very interested in this secret manual. This secret skill was derived from the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture, but it was far less profound than the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture. His understanding of it was very shallow, and it could only speed up the recovery of his martial arts. Practicing this required time, but once the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture was reversed, one could immediately recover their martial arts. The difference between the two was huge. However, since he was using the life and death scripture, he did not need to recover his martial arts. He could instantly replenish his inner energy and recover his cultivation. Your single slice of the universe is extremely powerful, Xiao Qi said. Chu Li nodded. It's a good way to win by surprise. The two of them sat at the stone table in the courtyard and chatted. I don't think Huang Feiyun will be convinced, Xiao Qi said. He's trained in military, so victory and defeat are common for soldiers. He's indomitable. Chu Li asked, how about we subdue him? Xiao Qi frowned at him. Chu Li replied, I'm not exactly a good person, but I can still be of use to you. You don't have to be stingy when it comes to dispatching me. Xiao Qi gently shook her head. I'm too lazy to worry about this. All right, then we'll beat him until he retreats. Chu Li did not force her. There was a knock on the door. Xiao Qi waved her sleeves, and the courtyard door opened. Two elders stood outside and fist saluted. Are you Chu Li and Third Lady Xiao? Yes. Chu Li stood up and looked at them. Are you from the town defense prefecture? The two elders nodded. We're here to inform you that Third Lady Xiao can only stay here for 7 days. You'll have to leave after that. This is a rule set by the Emperor. Those who aren't his family members are not allowed to accompany him. No problem, Chu Li said. Xiao Qi frowned. How about staying for a month? This is a rule set by the Emperor. One of the elders shook his head and sighed. Third Lady Xiao, many people want to stay for a while, but we dare not disobey the rules set by the Emperor. Otherwise, someone from the inner mausoleum will come. Chu Li said, all right, we won't disobey the rule. That's good. We won't disturb you anymore. The two elders fist saluted and left. They looked kind and polite. After sending the two off, Xiao Qi frowned. My lady, you can leave. Chu Li smiled. I can take care of myself. Xiao Qi glared at him. You knew about this rule, didn't you? Chu Li laughed. I really didn't. I'll stay. Xiao Qi scoffed. Chu Li had no cultivation now. If he did not want to be humiliated, he could only use his divine power. However, once he used his divine power, he would never be able to return to Fairy's capital. He would be trapped here by the Emperor forever. Chu Li shook his head. The Emperor's rule can't be disobeyed. Then we'll use the name of family. Xiao Qi said. Chu Li was stunned. Xiao Qi said, just say that I'm your wife. Chu Li's eyes widened. Xiao Qi scoffed. Isn't this what you want? Chu Li laughed. This isn't a joke. I'm not joking. Xiao Qi said. There's nothing wrong with marrying you. Are we pretending to be husband and wife? Chu Li asked. Xiao Qi shook her head. A real husband and wife. Chu Li looked at her from head to toe. Xiao Qi scoffed. I'm cultivating the regal sword scripture, not turning myself into a rock. She was not like other women who placed too much importance on relationships. Her original plan was to be single for the rest of her life. She wanted to pursue the ultimate boundary of martial arts and cultivate the regal sword scripture to perfection. She wanted to give up on relationships completely. However, Chu Li had unknowingly walked in her heart. She resisted it because she cultivated the regal sword scripture. She used the intellectual sword to cut the threads of love, but later on, she realized that she could not cut them off. Every time she seemed to cut them off, the threads became thinner and harder to notice, but stronger. Now, No matter how hard she tried, she could not cut them off. There was always a worry in her heart. This time, Chu Li's martial arts was crippled. If he was left alone, she did not know what kind of humiliation he would suffer. She could not stand it when she thought about it. She was not going to marry anyway, so she might as well marry Chu Li. Once she made this decision, she suddenly felt a strong sense of relief. She no longer had to struggle with the shackles of love. She might as well surrender. There were signs of a breakthrough in the regal sword scripture. Chu Li shook his head. You don't have to do this. You don't want to marry me? Shao Qi frowned and stared at him. Or do you have someone else in your heart? Chu Li laughed. How is that possible? Lu your own, right? Shao Qi asked. Chu Li felt that Shao Qi was exceptionally cute at this moment. She finally had some aura and was no longer as unattainable as a fairy. She's beautiful and smart. She has a tacit understanding with you. Shao Qi nodded. Chu Li said, she and I are destined to be rivals. Our minds and temperaments are similar. It's because we're similar that we repel each other. Shao Qi glanced at him with a faint smile. Chu Li smiled. If that's the case, I'll gladly accept a beauty like you. I have a condition, Shao Qi said. Say it, Chu Li said. Shao Qi said, we can't sleep together. The regal sword scripture can't be a virgin. She was a little shy and tried to maintain her cold gaze. She tried to avoid Chu Li's gaze. Chu Li was moved and wanted to hug her. All right, Chu Li nodded, pretending not to care. Shao Qi picked up her teacup and took a sip. She avoided Chu Li's burning gaze. Chu Li also picked up his teacup and took a sip. He stared at her passionately. Chapter 38:02. P.S. Update complete. Chu Li felt that if he did not channel, he would be torn apart by the spiritual energy. He had no choice but to use the cloud slashing power. The extremely pure spiritual energy in the surroundings continued to surge into his body. The cloud slashing power went round and round, and in the end, it was so pure that his meridians started to ache. However, the spiritual energy in the surroundings continued to surge into his body and started to rush to repair his meridians. The spiritual energy turned into waves of ice-cold energy that circulated in his meridians. Chu Li continued to purify the inner energy of the cloud slashing power. Round after round, the inner energy of the cloud slashing power turned into clear water, no different from the water outside his body. His body seemed to become heavier. The inner energy flowed smoothly and steadily like flowing mercury. Chu Li leaped up and stepped on the water. His qin gong had improved by another level. The meridians in his body were strengthened, and his internal organs were strengthened. This pool of water was indeed marvelous, and the benefits he obtained were even greater than the last time. The two cranes cried out. Chu Li leaped onto the back of one of the spirit cranes and hugged its neck. The spirit crane soared into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it had disappeared into the sky. It left the jade green pond behind, leaving the jade green pond water behind. Chu Li suddenly pressed on the spirit crane's head and transmitted the scene in his mind to the spirit crane. The spirit crane cried out twice. The spirit crane beside it also cried out twice. Finally, it changed direction and flew to the sky above a giant peak. The two cranes circled above the giant peak. Chu Li could see a spirit tiger lying on a huge rock at the peak of the giant peak. This spirit tiger was a few times bigger than a normal tiger. It was lying down lazily and basking in the sun like a huge cat. It seemed like it could not lift its spirits. He had seen the spirit tiger on a spirit crane before, but it was not this huge. It seemed like the one he saw last time was a small spirit tiger. Sensing the movement in the sky, the spirit tiger looked up at the two spirit cranes. It did not move, as if it knew that the spirit cranes would not disturb it. Not far away, a small spirit tiger was playing with a rock. It rolled and jumped, practicing its hunting movements. Chu Li was impressed. Suddenly, he let out a long howl. Roar! The spirit tiger, who was lying on the rock and basking in the sun, suddenly stood up and let out a roar. The roar shook the sky, startling flocks of birds and causing them to fly into the sky. Chu Li smiled when he saw its arrogance. This was exactly what he wanted. Suddenly, he disappeared from the back of the spirit crane and appeared at the peak of the spirit tiger peak. Standing on a huge rock, he sized up the spirit tiger from 100 meters away. Even from 100 meters away, the torrential aura of the spirit tiger was so thick that it was suffocating Suzumo. However, Mahavarokuna's immobility sutra came into play and dispelled the frightening aura before long. Standing up, the spirit tiger that was as large as an elephant leaped into the air. As if it had wings under its ribs, it leaped over 100 meters and pounced on Chu-Li. The snow-white fur on its body rippled like the waves of the sea, glaring under the sunlight. Before the tiger even arrived, a violent force was already rushing towards Chu-Li, almost suffocating him. Chu-Li yelled and threw a punch. The purest cloud-slashing power was used to control the divine light fist, and its power was the strongest. The spirit tiger waved its fan-like front paw and tore apart the fist force of the divine light fist as easily as tearing paper. Chu-Li used the omniscient mirror to observe down to the smallest detail. He could clearly see the appearance of his fist force and the strange force contained in its claws. When his fist force came into contact with the tiger's force, it was like tofu in front of a knife. He took a step forward and took advantage of the moment when the spirit tiger landed on the rock, and its momentum was at its weakest to fly up and collide with it. Bang! With a muffled sound, he was bounced back. The spirit tiger's body was made of flesh and blood, but it was as hard as a rock. The force of his collision did not penetrate the spirit tiger's body at all, and was reflected back into his body. He rolled down the rock and just happened to dodge the spirit tiger's huge paw. Stone powder flew everywhere. The paw had turned the rock into powder. Only after this collision did he realize how large the spirit tiger was. He was only as tall as the spirit tiger's front leg and had to jump to reach its stomach. The spirit tiger's paw was as big as a fan, so it could crush him like stepping on an ant. Roar! The spirit tiger roared, shaking Chu-Li's mind. It was like thunder exploding in his ears. He quickly disappeared on the spot. The spirit tiger's paw landed on the spot where he was standing. A huge pit appeared on the rock, and stone powder flew everywhere. Roar! The spirit tiger roared again and leaped towards Chu-Li. Chu-Li punched the spirit tiger's stomach. The spirit tiger shook its fur nonchalantly. Its snow-white skin surged like waves, and its fur emitted a dazzling white light, easily dispersing the fist force. The fist force was blocked, and the ferocious claws had already landed on Chu-Li's head. Chu-Li disappeared on the spot again in a flash. Roar! The spirit tiger was instantly enraged. It was angered, and its murderous intent grew even stronger after being dodged by an insect-like person time and time again. Chu-Li's vision darkened. The roar directly shook his mind. A clear sound rang out. Chu-Li was instantly refreshed, and his vision returned to normal. He could already feel the tiger's claws approaching his face. At the last moment, he barely dodged and disappeared, then reappeared on the back of the spirit cranes. The two spirit cranes soared into the sky, ignoring the roar of the spirit tiger on the giant peak behind them. They had now grown up and were no longer afraid of the spirit tiger's roar. Chu-Li touched his face and felt a burning pain. He opened his hand and saw that it was covered in blood. Although the tiger's claws did not hit him, they had already hurt him. The might of the spirit tiger was truly terrifying. He had experienced it once before, but it was not as deep as this time. The scene of the white tiger visualization taught by the white tiger sect was worlds apart from the real spirit tiger. It was like the difference between a ferocious tiger and a sick cat. After all these years, spirit beasts had become legendary creatures. More and more people had not seen them and could not imagine the might of spirit beasts. The spirit cranes landed, and Chu-Li glided to Shao-Chi's side. Shao-Chi slowly opened her eyes and looked at him. "Have you recovered your martial arts?" Chu-Li smiled and nodded. "Yes, I've recovered my martial arts." Shao-Chi smiled. "As expected of 100,000 hills," Chu-Li said. "When I return, I'll have to suppress my martial arts and pretend that I haven't recovered. Otherwise, it'll be too suspicious. Xiao Qi nodded. Chu Li hesitated. Actually, you can leave. I can protect myself now. Xiao Qi glanced at him. You want me to leave? Chu Li smiled. Of course not. That's it. Xiao Qi said. I won't go back on my words. Chu Li looked at her. Then don't regret it. Xiao Qi glared at him. Chu Li smiled. Although he could tell from Xiao Qi's character that she would not leave, he was still worried. After all, it was too urgent. Now that he heard what Xiao Qi said, he was completely relieved. What's with your face? Xiao Qi stared at Chu Li's face. Chu Li shook his head. I fought with a spirit tiger. I'll go back today and come back tomorrow. All right, Xiao Qi nodded. After they returned to the residence, they went to their respective rooms to rest. The next day, Chu Li went to Spirit Tiger Peak again to fight with the Spirit Tiger. However, he could only rely on his body technique and could not shake the Spirit Tiger at all. The powerful divine light fist felt like it was tickling the Spirit Tiger. Without imminent skyline and God's limbs, it would have been smashed into meat paste. Moreover, the Spirit Tiger's roar was powerful. Although it did not have any divine power, it was extremely fast. Moreover, its intelligence was not inferior to that of an adult. It was proud and aloof, so it could not tolerate Chu Li escaping from its claws. Therefore, when Chu Li appeared, it began to chase after him. Chapter 38:03. A bright moon hung in the horizon like a rotating wheel of ice, and its cold and clear radiance illuminated the world. The public house was brightly lit. Even at night, the lights in the house were not extinguished. It was as bright as day. Many people were busy in the house. Some were cultivating, some were reading, some were planting spirit herbs, and some were boating on the lake. On Chu Li's island, Chu Li and Xiao Qi suddenly appeared in his courtyard. There was a glorious tree planted in the courtyard. It was rich in spiritual energy, and all kinds of spirit herbs were growing at night. Xiao Qi's waist broke free from his hand and whispered, I'll go back first. You can come back tomorrow. Chu Li nodded. Xiao Qi left with a refreshing fragrance. Shui Ling fluttered over. Master, her shiny black hair fluttered in the wind. She wore a white robe, and her face was as clear as jade. As her mastery of the crescent cryptic deepened, her temperament gradually changed and became colder. Chu Li took out a piece of paper and passed it to her. Prepare some spirit herbs. I'm going to start refining pills. Yes. Shui took the paper. Master, do you want to take a rest first? That's fine. Chu Li nodded. Is there anything going on recently? Shui shook her head as she brewed tea. There's nothing going on outside. It's just that Master Xiao, Tai Ying, and Madame quarreled again. Madame ran back to her parents' house. Chu Li laughed. Master Xiao, Tai Ying really can't control Madame. Shui pursed her lips and laughed. Master Xiao, Tai Ying's tricks are useless in front of Madame. She's not afraid of him at all. He loses every time. I think he'll go back to fetch Madame in 2 days. Chu Li said helplessly, Forget it. They can go and fight. You must bring enough protectors. Once I fall, they probably can't sit still anymore and are ready to make trouble. Shui nodded lightly. Master Xiao Tai Ying's matter has spread here. What's everyone's reaction? Everyone said that we should just ignore the emperor and go back to the public house. Shui said, the emperor can't come to the public house to ask for people anyway. Chu Li said, there's no rush. How long will Master Xiao Tai Ying be staying? Shui said, how about I go over and serve Master Xiao Tai Ying? Chu Li shook his head. Maids aren't allowed. Other than family members, no one else. Will Lady Xiao Tai Ying come back too? She stays. Shui Ling was confused. Chu Li smiled. From now on, she will be Madame Chu. Shui Ling's eyes widened in disbelief. It can't be? Chu Li replied snappily. Is it that surprising? Young master, are you really going to marry third miss? Yes. Will the eldest young master agree? I'll come back this time to ask around. I don't think it'll be a big problem, Chu Li said with a smile. Shui Ling shook her head and said, I don't think Master Xiao Tai Ying will agree to it. Third lady. Chuli did not have a strong concept of being a disciple. After all, in his past life, he was only in the lower middle class. He had never been involved in the upper echelons of society. Shui grew up here, so she had a deep-rooted concept of hierarchy. Although Chuli was rank 1, he did not come from a noble family and was congenitally weak. Chuli said, "Let's watch Master Xiao tying for now." Shui pursed her lips and smiled. "If you can really marry the third lady, you'll be famous all over the world. Am I not famous enough now?" Chuli scoffed. Shueling giggled and shook her head. She then ran off to prepare the spirit herbs. He grew from a servant to a chief and finally married the lady. This was indeed a mysterious story. Perhaps everyone would know that compared to Chu Li of the North and Du Feng of the South, this story would attract more people. After all, many people who were not from the martial arts world did not care about martial arts masters. The next afternoon, Chu Li finally finished refining a batch of tiger bone pills. He then went to the Jade Guardian Island. The bright sun shone on his head. A gentle breeze swept across the surface of the lake. It brought with it a refreshing and slightly chilly feeling. It swept past the lush willow branches and arrived at a gazebo. It brushed past Xiao Ting, Xiao Baihe, and Chu Li's faces. In the gazebo, Xiao Taiying and Xiao Baihe sat on one side, while Chu Li sat opposite them. Xiao Taiying was still handsome and calm. He was staring coldly at Chu Li. Xiao Baihe was handsome and extraordinary. He smiled at Chu Li. After a while, Xiao Taiying looked at Chu Li and sighed. "You really want to marry my sister?" Chu Li nodded. "Master Xiao Taiying, did I make things difficult for you?" "Not really." Xiao Taiying shook his head. "Actually, no matter who my sister wants to marry, I won't object. I'm in charge of my second sister's marriage. In short, as long as my sister is willing to marry, I won't object." Chu Li said, "Don't worry, Master Xiao Taiying. I'll cherish Lady Xiao. I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried that you'll be under too much pressure. It'll damage your reputation as head chief Chu." Xiao Taiying sighed. After all, he was an orphan. He grew up in a temple. He had a lonely life. His family background was so weak that it could not be any weaker. If he were to marry his sister, there would definitely be people who would be jealous of him. They would scold him for living off a woman. Of course, there would be people who would be envious of him. However, these envious people were mostly people of the lower class. They were far from the scholarly officials. Chu Li smiled. "What's so important about my reputation? I'll just ignore them. The power of gossip is not bad." Xiao Taiying shook his head. "Don't ignore it. I'm afraid the emperor won't transfer you back to the fairies' capital." Once Chu Li became the son-in-law of the House of High Duke, his status would be different from that of chief. He would need to be cautious when using him. He might not be able to return to the secret guardian's hall. Chu Li said, "It's fine. I can cultivate in peace." Xiao Taiying smiled. "You have God's limbs. You can come back at any time. You don't have to be afraid. However, it's uncomfortable to be sneaking around. I'll send a memorial saying that you should return to the House of High Duke if you want to hold a wedding. At least you can stay in the House of High Duke, and you won't have to suffer." Chu Li shook his head. "Master Xiao, I want to stay there and take a look." Staying in the House of High Duke was indeed a great luxury. His status was respected and no one dared to go against him. However, it was too easy to lose his fighting spirit. Becoming an enlightened master was still far away. The Imperial Mausoleum had the secret of enlightened master. He had never given up. He wanted to find a chance to touch this mystery. The first step was to get in touch with the people in the inner mausoleum. "All right, it's up to you." Xiao Taiying said no more. "You've thought it through more thoroughly than us. Since you've made up your mind, I won't try to persuade you. Are you not going to hold a wedding?" "Let's not do it for now," Chu Li said. Xiao Taiying sighed. "It'll be hard on my sister. I'll spread the news." Chu Li gave a fist salute. Xiao Baihe laughed. "Big brother, I've always been worried that no one would dare to marry third sister. Third sister is cold. She doesn't even bother to talk to men. She's too smart. Which man can control her? In front of her, everyone will feel ashamed and pressured to the point that they can't even breathe." Xiao Taiying scoffed. "You got guts to say that." Xiao Baihe quickly looked around. When he realized that Sio Chi was not around, he let out a sigh of relief. Chu Li chuckled with a proud expression. Sio Baihe was right. There were not many men who could maintain their composure in front of Sio Chi, not to mention having other thoughts. Zhuo Feiyang slowly walked up to the third floor of the restaurant. His sapphire blue robe made his face look even more radiant and gentle. He looked as handsome as jade. When he reached the third floor, his cold eyes scanned the surroundings. He saw a middle-aged man sitting by the window. He frowned and went forward to sit opposite him. The middle-aged man tossed a jade bottle to him. There's a tiger bone pill inside. After consuming it, your physique will improve greatly. You haven't been cultivating hard enough. I've been cultivating hard. Do you think I'm like you, head chief? Zhuo Feiyang said impatiently. The middle-aged man was Chu Li in disguise. Zhuo Feiyang knew that Chu Li's bone shrinking technique was top-notch. It was easy for him to transform into this. He did not find it strange that Chu Li sneaked into the fairy's capital. Chu Li scoffed. You've been slacking. You've been living a peaceful life. It's not that. I've been stuck at a bottleneck in my martial arts. I've been thinking of ways to break through. Zhuo Feiyang scoffed. You'll be able to break through if you consume this, Chu Li said. You've gone down the wrong path. You've underestimated your body. You need to cultivate your body and your energy at the same time. Is that so? It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Chu Li scoffed. This tiger bone pill is very precious. It seems like you don't want it. Chapter 3804. Chu Li raised the wine glass to his lips and turned away from Zhuo Feiyang to observe the scenery outside. He asked casually, How's the progress with King Jing? Zhuo Feiyang shook his head. It's not going well. My martial arts is too weak, and I'm not qualified to get close to him. I've been guarding the imperial residence. Don't rush, Chu Li calmly said. Being too greedy will only make things worse. Let's take it step by step. This isn't something that can be done in a year or two. How long? Zhuo Feiyang stared at him. Don't tell me it's a lifetime. You'll know in 10 years. Chu Li pondered. It might be even longer. You should be prepared to stay in the imperial residence for a long time. 10, 20, or even 50 years. Then would I still be a member of the High Duke's public house? Zhuo Feiyang scoffed. I think I should just join him. He has a better future. Sure. Chu Li nodded. As long as you can escape the High Duke's public house. Zhuo Feiyang glared at him helplessly. But he's been keeping a low profile recently. He doesn't even interact with the courtiers. What do you think of him? How would I know? You're ambitious. Chu Li smiled. How can I not care about this? I think he's too conservative. Zhuo Feiyang did not hold back anymore. There was no need for him to hide anything from Chu Li. This is a great opportunity. Now that King Ping has relinquished his military power, no one in the imperial court can compare to him in terms of reputation. We should take this opportunity to rope in more courtiers and increase our prestige. Chu Li smiled. I'll just be your protector. Once my martial arts become stronger, I'll be able to get close to him and gain some knowledge. I'm leaving. He stood up and left. You. Zhuo Feiyang glared at Chu Li's back. He was obviously being underestimated. The bright afternoon sun shone brightly. Chu Li floated down from the back of the spirit crane. The spirit tiger on the boulder at the peak of the mountain roared and took the opportunity when Chu Li was about to land on the ground to pounce on him. The spirit tiger's snow-white fur shone beautifully under the sunlight. Its claws were so powerful that Chu Li would be torn to pieces if he was hit. Chu Li joined his palms together in midair. A white tiger silhouette quickly formed and crashed towards the spirit tiger. The spirit tiger turned its head away without a care in the world, avoiding its eyes. When the white tiger phantom collided with its neck, its snow-white fur quivered like ripples on the surface of water. Instantly, it dispelled the shocking force of the spirit focus attack, and its speed did not decrease at all. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and reappeared on the back of the spirit tiger. Woo! An enraged roar rang out. Chu Li felt as if his ears had been deafened. His vision went black, and he felt dizzy. The power of this roar was truly astonishing. If he had not activated Mahavirakanna's immobility scripture with all his might, he would have passed out immediately. Blocking the roar of the spirit tiger could activate Mahavirakanna's immobility scripture. Mahavirakanna's immobility scripture wasn't eye-catching among the four scriptures, but it was profound and unfathomable. It could strengthen one's psyche and counter divine arts, as well as negate the restraints of others. Originally, he could not use his divine powers in the Great Light Scripture and Mahavirakanna's immobility scripture. Now, however, he could counteract and restrain them, allowing him to maintain his divine powers freely. If he could continue strengthening it, he might be able to see through Zhishan's thoughts the next time he faced him. Zhishan had always been his greatest enemy. The Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture was mysterious and unfathomable. Its tricks were mysterious and impossible to guard against. Chuli grabbed onto the smooth and pliable tiger fur to prevent himself from being flung away. The spirit tiger charged forward and then stopped abruptly. Chuli felt like he was nailed to the tiger's back. However, the tiger fur was extremely smooth, and it took him a lot of strength to resist the huge inertia. Seeing that this move wasn't working, the spirit tiger suddenly rolled over. Chuli suddenly disappeared from the tiger's back. However, as soon as it stood up, Chuli reappeared and rode on its back. Woo! The spirit tiger roared again, louder this time. Chuli's vision darkened as he desperately activated Mahavirakanna's immobility scripture. The speed at which the lotus appeared increased by a few times and kept strengthening his psyche to resist the spiritual attack of the roar. Chuli endured the roar and held onto the tiger's fur tightly. He allowed the spirit tiger to jump on the mountain peak from one boulder to another. It was as agile as a cat and was extremely fast. Especially when it jumped and landed, it was abrupt and violent. Chuli remained unmoved as he was nailed to the tiger's back. There was a formless, murderous aura on the spirit tiger's body. Chuli could already resist it now. Staying close to the spirit tiger's muscles and aura, he had a deeper understanding of the spirit tiger and a deeper understanding of it. He had been constantly entangled with the spirit tiger to find the feeling that he was the spirit tiger and the spirit tiger was him, so that he could comprehend the white tiger power. He did not have much hope for the power of the white tiger power. He only wanted to cultivate it to perfection and then become an enlightened master. However, he slowly realized that he had underestimated the white tiger power. After staying close to the tiger for a few days, he had comprehended the first level of the white tiger power and realized that it was very powerful. The key to the inner energy of the white tiger power was the murderous aura. If one could not comprehend and master that layer of murderous aura, the power of the inner energy would be mediocre, similar to that of the white tiger sect. However, after mastering this strand of murderous aura, the inner energy of the white tiger power would be solid and pure. Moreover, its lethality was shocking and not something that ordinary inner energy could compare to. In terms of lethality and destructive power, it was even better than the divine light technique. The source of this layer of murderous aura was one spirit. Without the spirit of the king of beasts, it would be difficult to comprehend this strand of murderous aura. Then, the inner energy of the white tiger power would fade away, and one could only rely on inner energy and the white tiger killing skill to win. Inner energy was like a knife, while the murderous aura was like the edge of the knife. Without the edge of the knife, it was a blunt knife that relied on strength, not sharpness. With this strand of murderous aura, the knife would have a sharp edge. It was not a competition of strength, but sharpness. It was a completely different realm and power and could not be mentioned in the same breath. Because of this, he had been risking his life to tangle with the spirit tiger. The spirit tiger was extremely powerful and lived up to its name as the king of beasts. In front of it, Chuli was like a 3-year-old child and posed no threat at all. If the spirit tiger succeeded even a little, Chuli would definitely die a horrible death. If he made a mistake and its claws landed on his body, it would be useless no matter how powerful the life and death scripture was. It was this life-or-death situation that stimulated his potential to the maximum, desperately increasing his cultivation level and the sharpness of his spirit. The spirit tiger was so much stronger that he could not afford to make even the slightest mistake, or he would die. After entangling with the spirit tiger for a while, Chuli suddenly disappeared from the tiger's back and appeared on the back of the spirit crane in the sky. The spirit crane was circling in the sky. With a clear cry, it flew away from the spirit tiger peak and returned to the spirit crane's peak. Xiaoqi was meditating and cultivating on a rock. Her clothes were as white as snow, and she sat there like a white jade statue. When she heard Chu Li's return, Xiaoqi slowly opened her eyes. She knew it was time to leave. When the two returned to adjacent town, it was already dusk and the lanterns were just lit. The two went to a restaurant and enjoyed the scenery of the small town while they ate. After their meal, the two strolled back to the residence and returned to their respective houses to comprehend martial arts. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Seeing that everything was peaceful in the town, Chuli returned to Gale City. When he arrived at Gale City, he secretly looked for Jiang Kuai and gave him a tiger bone pill to help Jiang Kuai improve his martial arts. Jiang Kuai had a solid foundation, and his cultivation level improved rapidly after he entered the Grandmaster's boundary. However, he still could not compare to the 4 major sects, so he needed some external help. The tiger bone pill would strengthen his physique. When he returned to his residence in Gale City and was about to rest, he noticed Li Rulin and Lu Zhen gliding over. They had come to bid farewell and were going to Falling Autumn City to support Imo Qianjun again. The battle there was fierce, and they were short of manpower. Chapter 38:05. P.S. Update complete. The moonlight was as clear as water. The three of them sat in the gazebo as the night breeze brushed past their faces. It was late autumn, and the night was starting to feel like winter. Chuli frowned and looked gloomy. His Zhao Dea disguise had a dark face to begin with. Now, his face was even darker, and it was scary. The air in the gazebo seemed to have frozen. Several lanterns lit up the courtyard as if it was daytime. The two women's faces looked especially beautiful under the light. Chuli was not in the mood to appreciate it. He frowned and scoffed. What is the saint trying to do? The saint can't do anything. We don't have enough manpower, and we can't let our secluded seniors leave the mountain. Li Rulin shook her head. Don't look so worried. We're not 3-year-olds. We can take care of ourselves. It's not the same, Chuli said impatiently. You're going to Falling Autumn City. Falling Autumn City isn't that scary. It's not like we haven't been there before. Li Rulin smiled. Chuli scoffed. Ask senior sister Lu if it's scary. Lu Jin sighed. Someone has to go and help. Otherwise, are we supposed to watch our senior brothers and sisters fall into danger? I'm most worried about Imo Qianjun, Chuli said angrily. He looks like a straightforward person, but he's a cunning one. I'm worried that you'll help him count the money after he betrays you. He's not that cunning. Li Rulin laughed. What kind of people do you think we are? Chuli said, Senior sister Li, you're smart, but you don't know how sinister people can be. He's capable of anything. Nothing can escape the saint's eyes. He won't dare to do anything, Lu Zhan said. So, junior brother Zhao, you don't have to worry too much. Don't worry, we'll be careful, Li Rulin said. Li shook his head. Besides Imo Qianjun, there's also Monk Xishan. He's too scary. You'll die if you encounter him. I don't know what the saint is thinking to let you take such a huge risk. Besides us, there are 2 senior sisters, Li Rulin said. They're patrols too. Even if the 4 of you work together, you won't be able to keep your lives if you encounter Monk Xishan. Chuli shook his head and said, That's why when we encounter him, we'll immediately use our secret skills to escape. Even if we're like senior brother Ji, we won't be able to fight him with our lives on the line. We won't be able to defeat him at all. I understand. Li Rulin said snappily. Are you really? Gather? Yalutai? The Imperial Guard's magnetic filter collapsed. Groove brush cut, sleeve engraving stem. Is it true that Benjua Sun's wages tanning Wu? Azimuth, It's best to live in seclusion in the Great Light Peak. Chu Li quickly nodded and said, Senior Sister Li, think about it. Once you're done with this mission, return to the peak and live in seclusion. Don't come out and take risks anymore. If the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty go to war, I don't know how many people will die. How can I hide when the country is in danger? Li Ruolin replied snappily. All right, we're just informing you and checking up on you. Since you're fine, we can leave with peace of mind. Chu Li sighed and took out a jade bottle from his inner pocket. He handed it to Li Ruolin. There are a few light pills in here. Keep them in your mouth when you fight the enemy. Don't be reluctant. I'll have more after you finish them. Li Ruolin took it without hesitation and smiled. The light pill is an extremely rare item. Everyone only has one pill, but you're lucky. Don't worry, we have secret skills with us. We won't die so easily. Chu Li glared at her. Don't say such inauspicious things. His heart suddenly skipped a beat. When Li Ruolin said that, he had a vague feeling that something bad was about to happen. How about this? I'll go with you, Chu Li said. Li Ruolin shook her head. You've been sent here, and you're not allowed to participate in this war. I'll just sneak over, Chu Li said. Li Ruolin said, if the saint finds out, you'll be in trouble. Don't worry, I was already a patrol before you entered the Great Light Peak. I've been through so many battles. Chu Li frowned at them. Suddenly, he appeared behind them in a flash and patted their backs. The two girls were stunned and froze. Li Ruolin cried out involuntarily, Zhao Dai, you're crazy. I don't think this trip is appropriate. It's better if we don't go. Chu Li shook his head. I'm sorry, senior sisters. Do you know what you're doing? Li Ruolin said angrily. Stop fooling around. We've delayed the rescue of falling Autumn City and put the other senior sisters and senior brothers in danger. Even if we die 100 times, we won't be able to atone for it. Chu Li scoffed. Before I care about their lives, I'll care about yours first. To him, apart from Li Ruolin and Lu Zhan, as well as a few people from the Spirit Medicine Nursery and Sun Lihua, he did not care about the rest of the people from the Holy Church of Light. It did not matter to him whether they lived or died. After all, the Holy Church of Light was his opponent. Lu Zhan said, Junior Brother Zhao, I know you care about us, but you're confused. If you do this, we'll be severely punished according to the Church's rules. You won't be able to escape it. It's fine if you disobey orders during normal times, but if you disobey orders during times of war, you'll be beheaded immediately. Chu Li scoffed. You were forced to do this. I'm the one to blame. Whether we were forced or not, who can prove that? Lu Zhan shook her head. Moreover, we came here on our own. We've already broken the rules. Logically, we should have rushed to Falling Autumn City as soon as we received the order. I'll personally apologize to the saint. Chu Li shook his head. But I can't let you go this time. Zhao Dai, Li Ruolin said angrily. Let go of us now. Chu Li shook his head without saying a word. He trusted his intuition. His sharp senses told him that it was inappropriate and inauspicious. Of course, he could not let the two women court death. Ah, Junior Brother Zhao, you're bringing harm to us. Lu Zhan said, if we don't go to help, even if the saint forgives us, we'll become a laughingstock. We'll be too ashamed to stay at Great Light Peak because we're afraid of danger. So be it, Chu Li said. It's better than dying. Zhao Dai, we won't die so easily. Li Ruolin said impatiently. Let go of us. Chu Li shook his head. I won't let go. Just give up and stay here obediently. You could trap us for a while, but can you trap us for the rest of our lives? Lu Zhan sighed and said gently, it's dangerous this time, so we're not going. What about next time? Are we going to retire at Great Light Peak instead of going every time? To be honest, we can't live like that. Chu Li frowned at her. Lu Zhan said, instead of living in obscurity, it's better to die with a bang. This is the way we've chosen to live. Chu Li looked at Li Ruolin. Li Ruolin bit her lower lip and nodded slowly. Yes, we could have chosen to stay in the peak, but we still chose to leave. We've encountered many dangers and survived them. Although Falling Autumn City is dangerous, we can't run away. Lu Zhan said, if we run away this time, we'll still run away next time. will become completely useless and live a life worse than death. Li Rulin nodded. Senior sister is right. Chu Li sighed. I'll go with you then. Li Rulin frowned. There's no need for that, junior brother Zhao. You can accompany us for a while, but are you going to accompany us forever? Chu Li blurted out. There's nothing wrong with that. Chapter 38:06. Chu Li looked at her helplessly. When it came to personal beliefs, there was nothing he could do. Since she had chosen this life, he could not force her to change just because it was dangerous. Moreover, she was not his woman. Lu Zhan said, Junior brother Zhao, I know you like junior sister Li, and that's why you're acting this way. However, we're patrols, and we have to face difficulties. We're not as fragile as you think. Li Rulin turned and glared at Lu Zhan. Chu Li frowned and thought for a while. Then, he took out 2 jade tags and handed them to the 2 women. Take this. If your life is in danger, crush it. He had made up his mind to take a risk and use God's limbs to save them. He would then say that he had been following them. It was extremely risky to use God's limbs. There were only 2 or 3 people in the world who had successfully cultivated God's limbs, and they were all monks from the Titanium Temple. The remaining one was Chu Li. If he were to be recognized when he used it, his identity would be exposed. Li Rulin accepted it without hesitation. All right, crush it if you're in danger. We'll leave first. Lu Zhan took it and studied it before keeping it in her arms. She smiled. Junior brother Zhao, we'll come back to see you after we've completed our mission. Chu Li nodded. With this jade tag, he would be able to rush to them immediately if they were in danger. It was almost the same effect as him secretly following them. Li Rulin walked up to him and patted his shoulder. She chuckled. You should calm down and stop provoking the saint. She's running out of patience with you. Behave yourself for a while. Chu Li replied, I've been very well behaved. Then stop killing people and causing trouble. Li Rulin said impatiently. The Holy Church needs to join forces with the other 3 sects to deal with the Qiu dynasty. What will the White Tiger sect think after what you did? The impact will be huge. Chu Li frowned and nodded. Of course, he knew that he should not cause trouble. However, due to his detached state of mind, he killed those who needed to be killed without hesitation. It was rare for the saint to send people to help even though she was furious. However, she had initially planned to ignore him for a while. Now, she was probably disappointed and had given up. Chu Li shook his head as he watched the 2 women glide away. Walking in the martial arts world was a dance with death. No matter how strong one's martial arts was, if one was unlucky, one's life would still be in danger. Life and death were up to fate, and riches and honor were up to the heavens. Could it be that everything was destined? He took a deep breath and suppressed the ominous feeling in his heart. Then, he walked out of the mansion and wandered around Gale City to vent his frustrations. So what if his martial arts were strong? He couldn't control the thoughts of others. It was because he didn't have enough power. A real man couldn't be powerless for a day. Gale City was exceptionally lively at night. The bright streets were bustling with activity as the citizens had to work during the day. At night, their families would go out for a stroll and relax. The Phoenix Goddess restaurant was bustling with noise and excitement. However, Chu Li had no intention of entering the brothel. Without Yuru and Bai Feng, the Phoenix Goddess brothel no longer held any interest in the place. Not long after he passed by the Phoenix Goddess brothel, his expression suddenly changed. The omniscient mirror inadvertently scanned Elder Song's residence. His figure flickered a few times and floated like the wind. He appeared in Old Song's residence and saw Old Song lying on the ground. He had been dead for a long time. He didn't touch Old Song's corpse. He just stood there and looked at it. All of Old Song's internal organs had been shattered. He could tell that it was the White Tiger killing skill that killed Old Song in one hit. This was obviously the work of the White Tiger sect. Could they have discovered that Old Song had revealed the White Tiger power? Chu Li became vigilant and turned to look at his surroundings. There were only a few martial arts masters within the observation range of the omniscient mirror. He suddenly focused his gaze and saw that there was no one around Old Song's residence. There was only an old beggar squatting at the end of the alley. There was also another beggar squatting at the corner of the alley behind Old Song's residence. These two beggars were old and clumsy. Their movements were slow, and they didn't have any killing intent. They didn't know any martial arts and were extremely ordinary people. That was why Chu Li didn't pay much attention to them before. However, he felt that something was wrong now. Thus, he activated the omniscient mirror and looked into their minds. Chu Li dashed out of Old Song's residence and headed toward the back door. The two beggars moved at the same time. Their body movement techniques were as fast as lightning, and they were about to catch up to him. Their inner energy still didn't fluctuate, and they seemed like ordinary people who didn't know martial arts. However, these two ordinary people's body movement techniques were extremely fast, and they were even faster than him. Chu Li didn't dare to use his divine power. Instead, he tried his best to use time steps. He flashed a few times and avoided being surrounded by the two beggars. Then, he dashed in another direction. The two old men's body movement techniques were extremely fast, and they caught up to him in the blink of an eye. Their torn and dirty clothes fluttered in the wind and revealed a murderous aura. He already knew why the two were here. The White Tiger sect found that Zheng Yanwu's death was strange. He died without a sound, which was not how a 100-year-old martial arts master should die. Thus, they suspected that there was something wrong with Old Song. After interrogating him, Old Song confessed everything. They knew that Chu Li had obtained the inheritance of the White Tiger power. They didn't care much about Chu Li killing the White Tiger sect disciples. After all, as a martial arts sect, killing and killing were inevitable. However, obtaining the inheritance of the White Tiger sect involved the foundation of the White Tiger sect, so they couldn't tolerate it. It wasn't a big deal that Chu Li had obtained the White Tiger power. The most terrifying thing was that if the Holy Church of Light obtained the White Tiger power, the destruction of the White Tiger sect would be right in front of them. Therefore, they had to kill Chu Li no matter what. These two fellows were 100-year-old martial arts masters who lived in seclusion. He suddenly turned in the air and dodged the attack. Two middle-aged men dressed like merchants rushed toward him from 200 meters away and attacked together with the two beggars. The White Tiger sect didn't send 200-year-old martial arts masters, but 4. His heart tightened as he recalled the scene when he saved King Ping. The 100-year-old martial arts masters were far more powerful than his incarnation of Zhao De. If he was prepared and used the single slice of the universe, he would be able to stop 100-year-old martial arts master. Even 4 of them would not be able to stop him, and he would definitely lose. Now that he was unprepared and could not use God's limbs, the only thing he could do was to escape. The 4 of them had surrounded him, but he managed to escape from their encirclement. The 4 of them chased after him and shot toward Gale City. He wanted everyone to know about the existence of these 4 people so that they would be wary of him. The Holy Church of Light would never let the 400-year-old martial arts masters of the White Tiger sect go after a branch leader. The White Tiger sect had to consider the consequences. He flew to the top of the Phoenix Goddess brothel and shouted, "The White Tiger sect is despicable. Come!" The 4 of them chased after him, and Chu Li used his divine light fist. The 4 of them blocked it in disdain and did not slow down. Chu Li waved his hands, and 2 flying blades shot out. Ding ding. The 2 beggars swung their fists to deflect the flying blades. Their torn clothes fluttered like rubber balls. Chu Li's light blade was so powerful that they could not afford to underestimate it. However, as long as they were on guard and wore treasured armor, they were not afraid of the light blade. Nevertheless, they were very careful in dealing with it. Roar, roar. The 4 of them shot out a white tiger silhouette at the same time. These 4 white tiger silhouettes were extremely fast and were harder to deal with than the 4 of them. They caught up with Chu Li in an instant. Chu Li put his palms together and formed a tiger silhouette that was as clear as a real baby tiger. Although the tiger silhouette was only the size of a fist, it exuded an eerie aura like a young tiger roaring in the forest. It was not weak at all as it pounced on one of the tiger silhouettes. Chapter 3807. His tiger silhouette flickered and became much thinner and dimmer. It was about to dissipate at any time, but it didn't. It continued to move forward to meet the third tiger silhouette. After colliding with it, it finally perished together with the third tiger silhouette and dissipated together. At this moment, one of the tiger silhouettes that the four people from the White Tiger sect had conjured crashed into his chest and lower abdomen. Bang! Bang! With two muffled sounds, he flew into the air. The force rushed into his body, and it was so solid that it was almost tangible. It wanted to tear his body apart, immediately injuring his internal organs. He spat out a mouthful of blood, which was like a mist. He circulated his inner energy and activated the inner energy of the White Tiger power, slowly dispersing the force of the White Tiger killing skill that was vibrating in all directions and trying to tear him apart. His inner energy was not as pure as the other two's, but there was a trace of killing intent in it. It was like a sharpened saber going against a sharpened saber. Although the opponent's saber was sharpened, it was firm and heavy. In terms of lethality, the sharpened saber was far inferior. However, when the two clashed, the sharpened saber might not have much of an advantage. Chu Li's internal organs were far tougher than an ordinary person's. In addition to that, he had the floating silkworm treasured clothing, so he could only suffer injuries and not die. If an ordinary grandmaster were to take 2 hits of the White Tiger killing skill, they would definitely die. Elder Song must have taken 1 hit and died immediately. He flew up, his hands forming the silhouette of a tiger in the air, and he controlled it to shoot towards one of them. The old beggar sneered, showing off in front of an expert. Chu Li's cultivation level was not weak. If he had used the Great Light Scripture and the Light Blade against them, he would still have been a threat. However, he just had to use the White Tiger power that he had just learned against them. It was simply ridiculous. Had they cultivated for almost 100 years for nothing? He wanted to surpass them after practicing for less than a month? Since they were wearing treasured armors, even if the White Tiger killing skill were to land on them, it would be reduced by more than half, so there was nothing to worry about. Therefore, without any hesitation, they charged forward and condensed another tiger silhouette at the same time to chase after Chu Li. They wanted to perish together and see who would be able to defeat the other. Chu Li had seen through their thoughts and was about to take advantage of it. His hands kept opening and closing, once again forming 3 tiger silhouettes. He was multitasking, dodging the attacks of the 4 tiger silhouettes while controlling the 4 tiger silhouettes to attack the 2 old beggars and the 2 merchants. Bam, 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 bam. Chu Li was hit once, but he was unable to completely dodge the 4 tiger silhouettes. The other 4 elders were also unable to dodge his tiger shadow. His spirit was strong, and his tiger shadow was faster than them. All 5 of them were sent flying, and, at the same time, they coughed up clouds of blood mist in the air. The destructive power of Chu Li's White Tiger killing skill was astonishing, but had been reduced by half by the White Tiger armor, so it was no longer as lethal when it landed on their bodies. Moreover, their cultivation levels were high, so they managed to offset some of the damage. Chu Li was injured again. Again. Chu Li scoffed. After spitting out the blood mist, he condensed the tiger silhouette again. Roar! The 4 of them joined their palms together without hesitation and condensed tiger silhouettes at the same time as Chu Li. Then, 4 tiger silhouettes shot towards him while his tiger silhouette shot toward one of them. Bang! He flew up, and so did the other old beggar. When he flew into the air, the other 3 tiger silhouettes were hot on his heels like maggots attached to bones, causing him to groan inwardly. If it was a one-on-one battle, he might not necessarily be afraid. In fact, he might even be able to suppress one of them. The might of the White Tiger power was astonishing, but if it was a 1-on-4 battle, he had no chance of winning. Bang, 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 bang. Muffled sounds could be heard continuously in the field, and Chu Li was continuously sent flying. The Phoenix Goddess Brothel had long heard their movements, and one by one, they peeked out to watch. The 4 of them fought from the roof of the Phoenix Goddess Brothel to the roof next to it. Everyone in the Phoenix Goddess Brothel could see it clearly, and they were in high spirits. It was rare to see grandmasters fighting, and it was even more precious to masters who wanted to break through to the grandmaster's boundary. Chuli saw that the situation was not good, and if this continued, he would fall into an increasingly disadvantageous situation. This was not a joke, and even if he transformed into Chuli, he had no chance of winning. The only way out was to escape. He swayed a little and ran outside. "I'll go to the Radiance clan." An old beggar scoffed. Chuli sneered. "Go ahead. I'd like to see whether the Radiance clan has more disciples or the White Tiger sect has more disciples." The old beggar stopped moving, and he scoffed angrily. "Then I'll kill you." Chuli's words made him extremely fearful. He knew that Zhao Dai was merciless when it came to killing people, so there was no need for him to take this risk. Therefore, he dropped the idea of killing the Radiance clan's disciples and decided to kill Zhao Dai first. Chuli shouted, "The White Tiger sect is becoming more and more powerful. 400-year-old masters against me." The old beggar and the other three people's expressions changed slightly, and their attacks became fiercer. Tiger silhouettes pounced on him crazily. Chuli used time steps to escape, but his voice echoed throughout half of Gale City. He dodged left and right and was hit by the White Tiger killing skill from time to time. Finally, he managed to escape into the forest outside the city. Instantly, the power of the White Tiger killing skill was limited here, and the trees were a huge obstacle for the White Tiger silhouettes. If they were not careful, they would run into them, and it was extremely difficult for them to catch up to Chuli. Outside, he would be hit by the White Tiger killing skill from time to time, and he would spit out a mouthful of blood. However, in the forest, he would not be hit for a long time, and the situation was much better. "Surround him and kill him," an old beggar said in a low voice. The other three nodded, and so two of them chased after him while the other two flanked him from both sides, trying to block him in front. However, Chuli was unusually slippery, and he had already seen everything clearly with the omniscient mirror. As soon as they moved, he immediately changed his direction, and the encirclement was instantly broken. In the end, there were still 4 people behind him, and they could not form an encirclement. The 5 of them circled around in the forest. Chuli's inner energy was abundant, and the 4 elders were even more so. They circled around endlessly from night to day and from day to night. In the end, all the distracting thoughts were gone, and there was only one thought left in their minds: catch up to him. Chuli had no other choice, and he was not a threat to them. Although the White Tiger killing skill was strong, once it was used, he would usually be fighting against 4 people at once. The moonlight was like water, and Chuli was still chasing after the 4 of them. Chuli was still full of energy, and he did not show any signs of fatigue. The other 4 were the same. They had enough pills, and they ate something when they were hungry and drank some water when they were thirsty. The 4 of them took turns to rest, and it was enough for the 3 of them to chase after him together. They were also secretly surprised that this Zhao Dai was so tenacious. Chuli was also in awe. These 4 old men did not look old at all. To grandmasters, 100 years old was just middle age, and it was the prime of their lives. Suddenly, he turned his head and roared. The stupefying howl was used when they were least expecting it. The 4 of them stopped moving. Chuli shot out a blade from each of his hands. TSS. 2 blades were shot at the foreheads of 2 people. Just as the blades were about to hit their targets, the 2 of them shrunk their heads and avoided the blade. With a proud smile on their faces, they chased after Chuli by a large distance and got close to him. Chuli saw that the situation was not good, and he used the stupefying howl again. This time, the 4 of them did not hesitate and got close to him, for tiger shadows shot at him, and he could not avoid them. Chapter 38:08. Chuli spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. The bitterness was indescribable. They were wearing soul-suppressing jades. This god-suppressing jade could restrain the Tian Luo sect's antique art. His mentality was strong, and the power of his stupefying howl was shocking enough. But he could not break through the protection of the god-suppressing jade. There was no invincible martial art in the world. Every martial art had a way to counter it. For example, the flying knife could be countered by treasured armor, and the god-stunning howl could be countered by the god-suppressing jade. However, the god-suppressing jade was extremely precious. It was even rarer and more precious than treasured armor. Not only did the two gods' stupefying howl not gain any advantage, but he also suffered a great loss. The two white tiger killing skills were the power that they had deliberately condensed, and their power was twice as strong as the previous one, causing him to suffer a rather heavy injury. Bam, bam, bam. 4 tiger silhouettes formed from the white tiger killing skill were extremely agile. They bypassed the trees and crashed into Chu-Li. Chu-Li did not manage to avoid it completely and was sent flying again. The two elders had already used their secret techniques. The white tiger's silhouette speed was extraordinarily fast, and its power was astonishing. After taking a few hits, his tendons and bones were injured, affecting his circulation. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were in severe pain. He almost couldn't help but want to use God's feet, but he didn't dare to do so. He gritted his teeth and activated the secret technique of great light. His speed suddenly increased, but he still could not shake off the 4 elders. He had no choice but to head toward the peak of the mountain. The mountain was tall and majestic. In the blink of an eye, the 5 of them arrived at the peak of the mountain and arrived at a steep cliff. At the bottom of the cliff was a deep valley. At first glance, he could only see the vast white fog. Even with his eyesight, he could not see the bottom of the valley. At this moment, he was standing on a rock at the top of the mountain, sneering at the 4 of them. The 4 elders fanned out and slowly approached him. Chu-Li scoffed. "You're ruthless enough to send 4 hidden masters to kill me. You've learned something that you shouldn't have." An old beggar said in a deep voice, "How dare you secretly learn the martial arts of the White Tiger sect?" Chu-Li replied, "The martial arts of the White Tiger sect aren't that great anyway. What's the big deal about learning it? The White Tiger power is the foundation of our White Tiger sect. You're courting death if you want to learn it." The old beggar was unkempt and dirty, so no one could see his true face. He shook his head and said, "Isn't the ability of your saintess better than you? Why didn't they covet our White Tiger power?" Chu-Li shook his head. "The saint is too lazy to learn in secret." "Humph. That's because Sun Mingwen knows that if she stealthily learns our White Tiger power, the 2 sects will fight to the death." The old beggar scoffed. "The Holy Church of Light may be powerful, but the White Tiger sect isn't to be trifled with. Come on, you guys." Chu-Li curled his lips and said, "Look at what you've done with the White Tiger power." His words caused the expressions of the other 4 to change slightly. They had also noticed the peculiarity of Chu-Li's White Tiger power. Although it was not pure enough, its power was extraordinary. More importantly, he had only cultivated for a few days, yet he was already so powerful. It was obvious that he was on the right path. This was what the White Tiger sect had been pursuing all this while. "Zhao, have you comprehended the White Tiger power?" the old beggar asked in a deep voice. Chu-Li said, "What's so difficult about it? It's a piece of cake for me. Are you willing to join the White Tiger sect?" The old beggar scoffed. "We'll grant you the position of an elder. It'll be much better than being in the Holy Church of Light. You're in an awkward situation in the Holy Church of Light. The saint doesn't like you, and the disciples don't accept you. You're all alone. However, if you join the White Tiger sect, you won't be like this. The sect leader will value you greatly. There's no need for that." Chu-Li shook his head. "If I join the White Tiger sect, you won't be able to protect me. The Holy Church of Light will never let a traitor go. You can live in seclusion on our mountain," the old beggar said. "No matter how powerful the Holy Church of Light is, they won't be able to break into White Tiger Peak. Staying on White Tiger Peak is worse than death." Chu-Li shook his head. "I don't want to live in seclusion." "Then you'll die today," the old beggar said coldly. Chu-Li smiled. "So what if I die? You guys don't have the ability." "Fine," the old beggar scoffed. Since you're so loyal to the Holy Church of Light, you shall die." The four of them placed their hands on the shoulders of the people next to them and pushed with their other hands. Four palm energies converged in the air and formed a vast wave of energy that surged toward Chu Li. There was no way to avoid it. Bang! Chu Li was like a ball that was hit. In the blink of an eye, he was shot out of the mountain and fell into the bottomless valley. Chu Li did not expect their last attack to be so powerful. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and was severely injured. His body could not withstand the multiple injuries, even if his body was made of iron. His vision went black and he fell. The four of them flew out and fell with him. In the air, they formed four white tiger silhouettes and shot them at Chu Li. This time, there were no more obstacles. Chu Li's vision went black. Although he knew he had to dodge, he did not have the strength. Bang, 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 bang. The tiger silhouettes hit him. If it were not for the floating silkworm treasure clothing, he would have been killed. Even with the floating silkworm treasured clothing, he was still seriously injured. There were several times when he wanted to use God's limbs, but he could not because they were behind him. He could only desperately activate the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture. Their inner energy was too pure, so the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture's conversion was slow. If the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture's mastery was higher, their inner energy would not be able to harm him. Unfortunately, his understanding of the Scripture was not deep enough, so he could only convert a little. Bang, 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 bang. They kept hitting Chu Li, hoping to kill him in one go. Chu Li had no choice but to activate the life and death Scripture. Endless spiritual energy flowed into his body to nourish his body and heal his injuries. Otherwise, he would be beaten to death. He suddenly turned around and faced the sky, waving his hands. Chi blades shot out one after another. The four of them panicked. They were too close to Chu Li and had been thinking about how to kill him. They did not expect Chu Li to counterattack. Swish, 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 swish. Chu Li's energy blades seemed endless and kept shooting out, forcing them to use their fists to block the energy blades. Bang! Chu Li fell into a deep pond, then quickly emerged from the water and went into the forest next to it. Bang, 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 bang. The four elders also fell into the deep pond. When they came out of the pond, Chu Li had disappeared. Chase him, he must have gone into the forest. The four of them entered the forest again. Their tracking skills were very good. For the next 2 days, Chu Li desperately fled toward the Great Light Peak under their pursuit. The four of them knew that once Chu Li reached the Great Light Peak, they would not have a chance to chase him anymore. Therefore, they activated their secret skills and beat him until he kept vomiting blood. Chu Li relied on his strong body to persevere and run with all his might. In the evening, when the sun was setting, Chu Li fled into the forest while the four of them chased after him closely. Chu Li's clothes were tattered, and he looked like a beggar. His face was as pale as a sheet, and his breathing was heavy, but his body movement technique was still very fast. The four people behind him were not much better. They were exhausted. No matter how strong their physical strength was, after 3 days of relentless pursuit, their faces were covered with frost. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.